The acrid stench of fear permeates the air as Roger Campbell, a seasoned human space marine, creeps through the shadows of an alien farm complex. His mission to rescue a sentient being raised as meat crystallizes with each cautious step. Roger's enhanced optical implants pierce the gloom, revealing row upon row of cages. Inside, humanoid figures huddle, unaware of their grim fate. The 35-year-old veteran's stomach churns. This Comarian facility isn't just a farm. It's a slaughterhouse for thinking, feeling creatures. A muffled whimper catches his attention. Roger turns, locking eyes with a young female. Her azure skin glistens with sweat, her forearms trembling as she presses against the bars. This is Uma, barely 19 years old, who has never known freedom. Roger's jaw clenches. His orders were clear, reconnaissance only. But faced with this atrocity, he can't stand idle. With practiced efficiency, he disables the lock on Uma's cage. The door swings open with a soft hiss. "Come with me if you want to live," Roger whispers, extending his hand. Uma hesitates, confusion evident in her large, luminous eyes. She's never seen a human before, never imagined a life beyond these walls. But something in Roger's determined gaze sparks a flicker of hope. As Uma takes her first tentative step towards freedom, alarms blare. Roger curses under his breath. "They're out of time. Run," he shouts, grabbing Uma's hand and sprinting towards the exit. Comarian guards pour into the facility, their scales glinting under harsh fluorescent lights. Energy weapons charge with an ominous hum. Roger pushes Uma behind him, drawing his own sidearm. The air crackles as plasma bolts fly. Roger's enhanced reflexes kick in. He ducks, weaves, and returns fire with deadly accuracy. One guard falls, then another. But more keep coming. "This way," Roger calls, guiding Uma down a side corridor. His mind races, recalculating escape routes. The original plan is shot to hell, but he's not leaving without Uma. They burst through an emergency exit, alarms screaming in their wake. Roger's concealed spacecraft sits just beyond the perimeter fence. Freedom is tantalizingly close. A Comarian fighter screeches overhead, searchlights painting the ground. Roger grits his teeth. This rescue mission has just become an interstellar incident. As they reach the ship, Roger's encrypted comms unit chirps. Earth Command demanding an update. He hesitates for a split second before sending a terse message. Mission parameters changed. Discovered sentient beings raised as livestock. Rescuing one. Request immediate extraction and prepare for potential conflict with Comarians. The ship's engines roar to life as Roger straps Uma into the co-pilot seat. She stares wide-eyed at the controls, a world beyond her comprehension. "Hold on tight," Roger warns as they lift off. The Comarian atmosphere burns orange around them as they ascend. Radar pings, enemy fighters in pursuit. Roger's hands fly over the controls, evasive maneuvers ingrained by years of combat. Uma watches in awe as her prison planet shrinks beneath them. She turns to Roger, a question forming on her lips. But before she can speak, the ship rocks violently. A near miss. Roger's expression hardens. They're not out of this yet. As stars replace sky, he knows one thing for certain. His actions today will change the course of human-Comarian relations forever. And at the center of it all sits Uma, a living, breathing testament to Comarian cruelty and human compassion. The real battle, Roger realizes, is just beginning. The stars streak past as Roger's spacecraft tore through Comarian space, the pursuing fighters hot on their tail. Uma's four hands grip the edges of her seat, her luminous eyes wide with a mixture of terror and wonder. "Hang on," Roger barked, his fingers dancing across the control panel. The ship lurched to the side, narrowly avoiding a barrage of energy blasts that lit up the viewport with searing purple light. Uma let out a startled yelp as the ship rolled, executing a tight corkscrew maneuver. "What's happening?" she cried, her voice trembling. "Evasive action," Roger grunted, his enhanced reflexes pushed to their limits. "They're not letting us go without a fight." The pursuing Cimmerian vessels matched their every move, raining down a relentless volley of weapons fire. Roger's brow furrowed in concentration as he weaved through the barrage, but a particularly well-aimed shot slipped past his defenses. The ship shuddered violently, alarms blaring throughout the cockpit. Red warning lights flashed across the displays, and the acrid smell of burning circuitry filled the air. "Damn it," Roger hissed, scanning the damage readouts. "Propulsion's hit. We can't outrun them like this." His eyes darted across the star map, searching for options. A small, rocky moon caught his attention, Zeter. It wasn't ideal, but it was their only choice. "Brace yourself," he warned Uma. "We're going in for a landing." The ship's descent was far from smooth. They plummeted through Zeter's thin atmosphere, the hull glowing red-hot from the friction. Roger fought the controls, guiding their wounded craft towards a clearing amidst a field of jagged rock formations and steaming geothermal vents. With a bone-jarring impact, they touched down. Roger quickly powered down the engines and ran a full-system diagnostic. The news wasn't good. The damage was extensive, and repairs would take time they didn't have. "We need to move," he said, unstrapping himself from the pilot's seat. "It won't take them long to track us here." Uma nodded, still shaken from the landing. As they exited the ship, she gasped, taking in the alien landscape. The ground beneath their feet was a patchwork of obsidian and crystalline structures, reflecting the light of a distant sun. Geysers of steam erupted from cracks in the surface, filling the air with a sulphurous haze. While Roger gathered essential supplies and tools from the ship, Uma's curiosity got the better of her. She wandered a short distance away, marveling at the strange rock formations. As she rounded a particularly large crystal cluster, she stopped short. "Roger," she called out, "I think I've found something." The Space Marine jogged over, his hand instinctively resting on his sidearm. Uma pointed towards a dark opening in the rock face, the entrance to a cave system. Roger's tactician's mind immediately grasped the strategic value of the discovery. "Good work, Uma," he said, giving her an approving nod. "This could be exactly what we need. Let's check it out." They ventured into the cave, Roger's optical implants adjusting to the dim light. The interior was a maze of twisting passages and chambers, some adorned with bioluminescent fungi that cast an eerie blue glow. It was defensible, hidden, and provided shelter from both the harsh environment and potential search parties. "This is where we'll set up camp," Roger decided. "I'll bring in what we need from the ship and start on repairs. In the meantime, we need to talk." As Roger worked on the damaged propulsion system, he began to explain to Uma the concepts of freedom, self-persistence, and the vast diversity of galactic civilizations. Uma listened intently, her face a mixture of confusion and wonder. "You mean there are others out there? Not just humans and Cimmerians?" she asked, her voice filled with awe. Roger nodded, his hands busy with a bundle of frayed wires. "Thousands of species, spread across countless worlds. And you, Uma, have the right to choose your own path among them." Uma fell silent, grappling with ideas that challenged everything she had ever known. As night fell on Zeter, Roger's long-range scanners picked up a worrying signal, a Cimmerian capital ship entering the system. "We're running out of time," Roger muttered, redoubling his efforts on the repairs. He knew that somewhere out there, Cimmerian ground troops were already combing the moon's surface, drawing ever closer to their hiding place. Uma watched him work, her earlier fear now tempered with a growing determination. "What can I do to help?" she asked, her four hands clenched with tenacity. Roger looked up, a small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "First lesson in freedom. Uma, You've got to learn to think for yourself. Look around, see what needs doing, and do it. As Uma set about organizing their supplies and keeping watch, Roger's mind raced. The repairs were progressing but too slowly. They needed a plan to get off this moon before the Cimmerians found them. And beyond that loomed an even greater challenge: the political firestorm that awaited them once they reached Earth space. But for now, those concerns had to wait. Their immediate survival depended on Roger's skill and Uma's newfound courage. As the distant sun dipped below Zeter's craggy horizon, the unlikely pair worked tirelessly, each passing moment bringing the sound of searching Cimmerian troops ever closer to their hidden sanctuary. The first rays of Zeter's distant sun crept through the cave entrance, casting long shadows across the rocky floor. Roger's eyes snapped open, his enhanced senses immediately alert. A faint rumble from above set his teeth on edge. "Uma, wake up," he whispered, gently shaking her shoulder. "We've got company." The young Cimmerian stirred, her luminous eyes blinking away the remnants of sleep. "What's happening?" "Search vessels entering the atmosphere," Roger explained, already moving to gather their meager supplies. "We need to move. Fast." As Uma rose, Roger's mind raced through their options. The ship was beyond repair, at least in the time they had. But perhaps not all was lost. He hurried outside, Uma close on his heels. "Watch for any signs of ground troops," he instructed as he began to dismantle key components from the crippled spacecraft. Uma nodded, her forearms tensed as she scanned the horizon. Her eyes, adapted to detect the slightest movement, caught a flicker of motion in the distance. "Roger," she hissed, "I think I see something. About 2 clicks north." Roger grunted in acknowledgement, his hands busy extracting the navigation system. "Good work. Keep watching. Your eyes are sharper than mine, even with the implants." Working swiftly, Roger cobbled together a makeshift device from the NAV system and long-range communicator. It was crude, but it would have to do. He powered it on, grimacing at the electronic screech it emitted before settling into a steady hum. "This should help us track their movements," he explained to Uma. "And maybe, if we're lucky, call for help." A distant boom echoed across the lunar landscape, followed by the whine of engines. The Cimmerians were getting closer. "Time to go," Roger said, leading Uma back into the cave. He paused at the entrance, surveying the crystalline formations scattered around the area. An idea sparked in his mind. "Uma, help me gather some of these crystals," he instructed. "The biggest ones you can carry." As they worked, Roger explained his plan. Cimmerians rely heavily on thermal imaging. These crystals, they absorb and reflect heat in strange ways. If we set them upright, we might just be able to throw off their sensors. Uma's eyes widened in understanding. "A distraction?" Roger nodded, a grim smile on his face. "Exactly." They worked quickly, placing the crystals in strategic locations around the cave entrance. Roger then rigged a crude explosive device, using emergency flares from the ship. The trap was set. As if on cue, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed from beyond the ridge. Roger and Uma retreated deeper into the cave, finding a hidden vantage point. A group of Cimmerian soldiers crested the hill, their scaled skin glistening in the pale sunlight. They moved with practiced precision, weapons at the ready. As they approached the cave entrance, their leader held up a hand, signaling a halt. Roger tensed, his finger hovering over the detonator. The Cimmerian commander stepped forward, his thermal scanner sweeping the area. He frowned, clearly confused by the conflicting readings. That moment of hesitation was all Roger needed. He pressed the detonator. The explosion rocked the cavern, sending a cascade of rocks tumbling down on the Cimmerian squad. Cries of surprise and pain were quickly drowned out by the rumble of the collapsing entrance. "Now!" Roger shouted. grabbing Uma's hand and pulling her towards the back of the cave. They sprinted through a narrow passage, the sounds of chaos fading behind them. The passage opened into a vast network of tunnels, stretching in every direction. Roger paused, pulling out his cobbled-together tracker. "This way," he said, pointing down a dimly lit corridor. As they moved deeper into the moon's interior, Roger noticed strange markings on the walls, glyphs and symbols unlike anything he'd seen before. "Look at this," he murmured, running his hand over the etched surface. Uma leaned in, her eyes wide with wonder. "What does it mean?" Before Roger could respond, a chilling howl echoed through the tunnels. His blood ran cold. He knew that sound. "Hunter beasts," he breathed. "They released the hunter beasts." Uma's face paled. "What are those?" "Bad news," Roger replied grimly. "We need to move. Now." They pressed on, the howls growing closer with each passing moment. The tunnels seemed to stretch endlessly, a labyrinth of twists and turns. Roger used bioluminescent algae from the cave walls to mark their path, leaving a faint blue trail behind them. Suddenly, the narrow passage opened into a vast cavern. At its center lay an underground lake, its surface shimmering with an otherworldly glow. Roger approached cautiously, his curiosity piqued by the strange luminescence. "This isn't natural," he muttered, kneeling to collect a sample in an empty ration container. "Could be valuable, or dangerous. Maybe both." Another howl, closer now, echoed through the cavern. Uma tensed, her forearms instinctively moving into a defensive posture. "They're coming," she whispered. Roger nodded, his mind racing. They were running out of options. The hunter beasts would be on them soon, and the Cimmerian forces weren't far behind. That's when Uma saw it, a faint glimmer of light, barely visible through a narrow crevice in the far wall of the cavern. "Roger, look!" she exclaimed, pointing. He squinted, his enhanced vision confirming what Uma had spotted. It wasn't natural light. It was artificial. "A ship?" Uma asked, hope creeping into her voice. Roger shook his head. "Or a trap. Either way, it's our only option right now." As they approached the crevice, the howls of the hunter beasts grew deafening. They were out of time. Roger turned to Uma, his expression grave. "Whatever's on the other side of that crack, it's our only chance. Are you ready?" Uma nodded, willpower etched on her features. "I'm with you, Roger." With a deep breath, they squeezed through the narrow opening, leaving the cavern behind. As they emerged on the other side, they found themselves facing something neither of them could have anticipated. The source of the light was unlike anything they had ever seen before. A sleek, metallic structure stood before them, its surface etched with intricate patterns that pulsed with a faint blue glow. The door was seamlessly integrated into the wall, almost invisible save for a slight shimmer that caught Roger's eye. "What is this place?" Uma whispered, her voice a mixture of awe and trepidation. Roger shook his head, his tactical mind already assessing the situation. "I'm not sure, but it's our best bet right now." As they approached, the door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a vast chamber beyond. Roger and Uma exchanged a quick glance before stepping inside, the door closing behind them with a finality that sent a shiver down Uma's spine. The interior of the facility was a marvel of advanced technology. Holographic displays flickered to life as they entered, bathing the room in a soft, ethereal light. Control panels lined the walls, their surfaces covered in symbols similar to the hieroglyphs they had encountered in the tunnels. Roger's eyes darted around the room, taking in every detail. His military training kicked in as he quickly identified what appeared to be a central console. "This tech," he murmured, running his hand over the smooth surface of a nearby panel. "It's light years beyond anything we have, or the Cimmerians, for that matter." Uma's attention was drawn to the walls, where more of the strange symbols pulsed with an inner light. "Roger," she said, her voice hushed. "These markings. They're like the ones we saw in the caves." Before Roger could respond, a bone-chilling howl echoed through the chamber, causing them both to freeze. The hunter beasts had found their trail. "We're out of time," Roger growled, moving swiftly to the central console. His fingers danced over the alien interface, trying to decipher its functions. Come on," he muttered, frustration evident in his voice. Uma's eyes widened as she heard the scraping of claws on stone, growing closer by the second. "Roger, they're coming." Suddenly, the facility sprang to life. Lights flared, and a low hum filled the air. Roger stepped back from the console, a mixture of surprise and satisfaction on his face. "I think I've done it," he said, just as a translucent energy barrier materialized across the chamber's entrance. The timing couldn't have been better. A massive, snarling form hurled itself at the opening, only to be repelled by the shimmering field. The hunter beast, a nightmarish amalgamation of teeth and claws, prowled just beyond the barrier, its eyes fixed on the prey that had eluded it. "That was close," Uma breathed, her forearms relaxing from their defensive posture. Roger nodded, already moving deeper into the facility. "Too close. But we're not out of the woods yet. We need to find a way out of here." As they explored further, the true scale of the alien structure became apparent. Corridors branched off in every direction, each leading to rooms filled with technology beyond their comprehension. Roger's tactical mind was in overdrive, analyzing every potential threat and opportunity. Their search led them to a vast hangar, where several sleek spacecraft stood in perfect formation. Despite the apparent age of the facility, the ships looked as if they had just rolled off an assembly line. Roger approached one of the vessels, his hand hovering over its smooth surface. "This could be our ticket out of here," he said, a note of hope in his voice. While Roger examined the ships, Uma wandered to a nearby console. As her fingers brushed the surface, a holographic display sprang to life, filling the air with streams of data. Her eyes widened as she began to understand the information before her. "Roger," she called, her voice trembling. "You need to see this." He joined her at the console, his brow furrowing as he took in the display. "What am I looking at?" It's about my people," Uma said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We were called the Lumina. We were spacefaring, peaceful. We had relations with the builders of this place." Her voice caught as she continued. "And the Comarians. They conquered us, enslaved us, turned us into livestock." Roger placed a comforting hand on her shoulder, his face grim. "I'm sorry, Uma, but this information, it could change everything." A distant rumble shook the facility, snapping them both back to the present danger. Roger's eyes narrowed as he consulted the alien ship's sensors. "We've got a problem," he said, his voice tight. "The Comarian capital ship is charging its main cannon. They're going to obliterate this entire area." Uma's eyes widened in horror. "How much time do we have?" "Minutes at best," Roger replied, already moving towards one of the alien ships. "We need to leave. Now." As Roger worked to power up the vessel, Uma's gaze was drawn back to the data console. "Roger," she said, her voice conflicted. "This information. It could be crucial in the fight against the Comarians. We can't just leave it." Roger paused, his hand hovering over the ship's controls. He knew she was right, but the risk was enormous. The Comarian weapon would render the moon's surface uninhabitable in mere minutes. "We don't have time for a full download," he said, his mind racing. "But maybe... Uma, can you use what you've learned about your people's tech to boost the ship's data storage?" Uma nodded, her four hands already moving across the alien interfaces with newfound confidence. As she worked to enhance the ship's systems, Roger initiated a partial download of the facility's database. The ship hummed to life, its systems responding to Roger's touch as if they had been made for him. As the energy levels from the Comarian capital ship reached critical levels, Roger and Uma finished their hasty data transfer. "Brace yourself," Roger warned as he engaged the ship's engines. The vessel phased through the energy barrier with ease, emerging into the cavern beyond. Just as they cleared the facility's entrance, the world behind them erupted in a blinding flash of light. The Comarian weapon had fired, unleashing a wave of destructive energy that raced towards them. Roger pushed the alien craft to its limits, its advanced propulsion system carrying them faster than any ship he had ever flown. They burst through Zeter's atmosphere, the destructive energy nipping at their heels. As they broke free of the moon's gravity well, Roger activated the ship's cloaking device. They watched in stunned silence as the energy blast scorched Zeter's surface, obliterating all traces of the ancient facility and any unfortunate souls left behind. "We made it," Uma breathed, her luminous eyes wide with a mixture of relief and sorrow. Roger nodded grimly, his hands steady on the controls as he set a course for Earth. "We're not out of the woods yet," he said, gesturing to the long-range sensors. Multiple Comarian vessels were in pursuit, their signatures unmistakable even at this distance. "Commander Zexter isn't giving up," Roger muttered, his mind already plotting their next move. They had to navigate through Comarian-controlled space, avoid detection, and find a way to contact Earth's forces without compromising their position. As they sped towards Earth, Roger glanced at Uma, who was still processing the revelation about her people's history. He knew that the information they carried could change the course of the impending conflict. The fate of humanity, the Lumina, and the balance of power in the galaxy now rested on their shoulders. "Get some rest," Roger told Uma, his voice softening slightly. "We've got a long journey ahead of us." As Uma retreated to the ship's small living quarters, Roger turned his attention back to the vast expanse of space before them. The Comarian vessels loomed in the distance, a constant reminder of the danger they faced. With a fierce dedication, he piloted the alien craft deeper into the darkness, knowing that their real challenges were only just beginning. As Roger piloted the alien craft deeper into the darkness of space, the Comarian vessels looming in the distance served as a constant reminder of the danger they faced. The ship's advanced systems hummed softly, its alien technology responding to Roger's touch with an almost intuitive ease. Uma returned from the small living quarters, her luminous eyes reflecting the starlight streaming through the view screen. "Any sign of pursuit?" she asked, her voice tight with concern. Roger shook his head, his gaze fixed on the long-range sensors. "Nothing yet, but it's only a matter of time before they pick up our trail." As if on cue, a warning light flashed on the control panel. Roger's hands flew over the alien interface, his brow furrowing in concentration. "Damn," he muttered. "The cloaking system is becoming unstable." Uma leaned in, her forearms tensed as she watched the flickering holographic display. "What's happening?" "The cloak is malfunctioning," Roger explained, his voice tense. "It's fluctuating, and if we can't stabilize it, we'll be visible to every Comarian sensor in the sector." Roger's mind raced as he analyzed the alien systems, drawing on years of technical expertise to decipher the unfamiliar technology. His fingers danced across the control panel, making minute adjustments and rerouting power to stabilize the cloaking field. Uma kept her eyes glued to the sensor displays, watching for any sign of Comarian patrols. "Roger," she said suddenly, her voice urgent, "I'm picking up something ahead. A massive debris field." Roger looked up from the cloaking controls, his eyes widening as he took in the sensor data. The space before them was littered with the remains of destroyed spacecraft and fragmented space stations, a graveyard of twisted metal stretching as far as their sensors could detect. "It looks like there was a major battle here," Roger mused, his tactical mind already assessing the situation. This debris could provide cover from Chimerian sensors, but navigating through it will be risky. Uma nodded, her expression grim. It's our best option. The cloaking system won't hold much longer. Roger made his decision, guiding the alien craft towards the debris field. As they entered the outskirts of the wreckage, he throttled back the engines, maneuvering carefully between shattered hull plates and drifting fragments. The ship's sensors chirped a warning as a jagged piece of debris scraped along their hull. Roger gritted his teeth, making minute course corrections to avoid further collisions. The debris field was dense, a maze of twisted metal and frozen gases that threatened to tear their ship apart with each passing moment. As they delved deeper into the wreckage, Uma's keen eyes spotted something amidst the destruction. "Roger, look!" she exclaimed, pointing at a particular section of debris. "That ship. It's not Chimerian." Roger squinted, focusing on the area Uma indicated. His eyes widened as he recognized the sleek lines and familiar design. "It's human," he breathed. "A stealth frigate. But what's it doing out here?" As they drew closer, Roger could make out the ship's designation painted on its scarred hull, HSS Nighthawk. The frigate appeared heavily damaged but intact, its running lights dark as it drifted silently among the debris. "It might be a trap," Uma cautioned, her voice low. Roger nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Maybe, but it could also be our best chance of getting this information back to Earth." He made his decision, guiding their alien craft towards the damaged frigate. As they approached, Roger opened a secure communication channel. "HSS Nighthawk. This is Lieutenant Commander Roger Hawthorne of Earth Force Special Operations. Do you copy?" For a long moment, there was only static. Then, a gruff voice crackled through the speakers. "This is Captain Marcus Holt of the Nighthawk. Identify yourself and your vessel immediately, or we'll open fire." Roger took a deep breath, knowing the next few moments could determine their fate. "Captain Holt, I'm piloting an alien vessel we acquired during a mission. We're carrying critical intelligence about Chimerian military capabilities and an impending offensive against Earth." There was another pause, and Roger could almost feel the suspicion radiating from the other ship. Finally, Holt's voice came through again. "Approach slowly and prepare to dock. Any sudden moves, and we'll blow you out of the sky. Understood?" "Understood, Captain," Roger replied, relief evident in his voice. He turned to Uma, his expression serious. "Stay alert. This could still go sideways." As Roger carefully maneuvered their alien craft towards the Nighthawk's docking port, a new alert blared from the sensor console. Uma's eyes widened as she interpreted the data. "Roger, we've got company. Chimerian patrol entering the debris field." Roger's eyebrows furrowed as he saw the enemy signatures on the long-range scanner. "We're out of time," he muttered, increasing power to the engines. The alien ship glided swiftly towards a Nighthawk, docking clamps engaging with a solid thunk. As the airlock cycled, Roger turned to Uma, his voice low and urgent. "Whatever happens, remember, the information we're carrying could change everything. We need to get it to Earth, no matter the consequences." Uma nodded, her luminous eyes filled with grit. As the airlock door slid open, they stepped into the unknown, the fate of two civilizations resting on their shoulders. Shoulders. The airlock door closed behind them with a soft hiss, sealing them inside the Nighthawk. Captain Holt stood before them, flanked by two armed security officers. His weathered face was a mask of suspicion as he eyed Roger and Uma. "You've got some explaining to do, Hawthorne," he growled. Before Roger could respond, the ship rocked violently. Alarms blared throughout the vessel as a voice crackled over the intercom. "Captain, Chimerian patrol has engaged us." Holt's eyes narrowed. "We'll continue this later. To the bridge, now." As they raced through the corridors, Roger felt the familiar vibrations of the Nighthawk's engines powering up. They burst onto the bridge, a flurry of activity as the crew prepared for battle. Status report. Holt barked, sliding into the captain's chair. 3 Cimmerian frigates, sir, the tactical officer responded. They're charging weapons. Roger's mind raced. Captain, permission to take the helm? I have experience with Cimmerian tactics. Holt hesitated for a split second before nodding sharply. Do it. Roger's hands flew over the controls, the Nighthawk responding to his touch. As the first volley of Cimmerian energy weapons streaked towards them, he executed a series of evasive maneuvers, pushing the ship to its limits. Uma stood by, her luminous eyes tracking the enemy vessel's movements. Roger, the lead ship is adjusting its trajectory. They're trying to flank us. With Uma's heightened senses guiding him, Roger anticipated the Cimmerian's moves, weaving the Nighthawk through a deadly dance of energy beams and torpedo fire. The ship shuddered under the strain, but Roger's piloting kept them one step ahead. As the battle raged on, Roger noticed something strange. His connection to the ship felt deeper, more intuitive than he'd ever experienced before. It was as if the Nighthawk systems were responding directly to his thoughts. Suddenly, a neural interface activated, its alien design integrating seamlessly with the Nighthawk's human technology. Roger gasped as his mind merged with the ship's systems, unlocking capabilities he never knew existed. What's happening? Holt demanded, noticing the change in the ship's performance. I'm not sure, Roger replied, his voice strained with concentration. But I think I can get us out of here. With his newfound connection, Roger executed a series of maneuvers that defied the laws of physics. The Nighthawk spun and twisted, outpacing the Cimmerian ships with impossible speed and agility. There! Uma exclaimed, pointing to a dense field of asteroids on the long-range scanners. We can lose them in there. Roger nodded, guiding the Nighthawk towards the treacherous field. As they entered, he weaved between massive space rocks with preternatural precision, the neural link allowing him to sense the ship's exact position in relation to the asteroids. The pursuing Cimmerian vessels struggled to follow, their larger size making it difficult to navigate the dense field. Frustrated by their quarry's elusiveness, the lead ship opened fire indiscriminately, its energy weapons shattering asteroids and creating a deadly cloud of debris. Roger's enhanced control allowed him to navigate through the chaos, but the Nighthawk still took hits. Warning lights flashed across the control panel as systems began to fail under the strain. We can't take much more of this, the engineering officer shouted over the din of alarms. As they emerged from the asteroid field, their sensors picked up something unexpected. Captain, the science officer called out, I'm detecting a massive structure hidden within that large asteroid ahead. On the interface, a hollowed-out asteroid came into view, revealing a sprawling space station unlike anything they had ever seen. Its design was clearly neither human nor Cimmerian. What is that? Holt breathed, momentarily forgetting the danger at their backs. Roger made a split-second decision. It might be our only chance. Sir, permission to approach? Holt nodded grimly. Do it. As they neared the station, automated defense systems sprang to life, targeting both the Nighthawk and the pursuing Cimmerian vessels. Roger's neural link with the ship surged, and without conscious thought, his mind transmitted a complex series of codes. The station's defenses powered down, and a massive docking bay opened before them. Roger guided the battered Nighthawk inside, the bay doors sealing behind them just as the Cimmerian ships reached weapons range. As the crew caught their breath, Uma approached one of the bridge's terminals. Her hands moved with newfound confidence over the alien interface, activating a holographic display. Roger, she called, her voice filled with awe. You need to see this. As Roger joined her, the holographic display expanded, filling the bridge with streams of data. His eyes widened as he began to understand the information before them. "This station," Uma said, her voice trembling with emotion. "It's Lumina. My people built this place." The implications of their discovery hung in the air as the crew of the Nighthawk found themselves at the heart of an ancient mystery, with the fate of humanity and the galaxy hanging in the balance. Balance of the galaxy hanging in the balance. Roger tore his eyes away from the holographic display, his mind racing with the implications of their discovery. "A Lumina outpost," he breathed, turning to Uma. "Can you access its systems?" Uma's four hands moved deftly across the alien interface, her luminous eyes narrowed in concentration. "I believe so," she replied, her voice tight with anticipation. "There's a sealed chamber deep within the station. It might hold the answers we seek." Captain Holt stepped forward, his weathered face a mix of curiosity and caution. "Lead the way, but stay alert. We don't know what kind of security measures this place might have." As they navigated through the winding corridors of the ancient outpost, Roger couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The station's architecture was unlike anything he had ever seen, with smooth, organic curves that seemed to flow like liquid metal. They arrived at a massive door, its surface adorned with intricate, glowing patterns. Uma approached, placing her hand on a nearby panel. The patterns pulsed with light, and a soft humming filled the air. "It's scanning my genetic signature," Uma explained, her voice filled with awe. "My people built this place, but I never imagined." With a low groan, the door slid open, revealing a vast chamber beyond. As they stepped inside, lights flickered to life, illuminating what appeared to be a command center. Banks of dormant consoles lined the walls, their surfaces covered in a fine layer of dust. Roger's eyes were drawn to a central pedestal, where a spherical device sat silent and dark. Acting on instinct, he approached, his fingers hovering over its surface. "This looks like some kind of AI core," he murmured, his technical expertise kicking in. Drawing on his years of experience with alien technology, Roger began to work, his hands moving with practiced precision. As he connected power conduits and bypassed ancient security protocols, the sphere began to hum with energy. Suddenly, a holographic projection burst to life above the pedestal, coalescing into the form of a translucent, androgynous figure. Its voice, when it spoke, was melodic and multi-toned. "I am Nexus, custodian of this outpost. Greetings, descendant of the Lumina," it said, turning to Uma. "And to you, beings of Earth. How may I assist you?" Uma stepped forward, her voice trembling with emotion. "Nexus, we seek information about the station and its capabilities. We are in grave danger from an enemy force known as the Comarians." The AI's expression shifted, its holographic form rippling with what seemed like concern. "The Comarians have grown powerful, then. This station houses a formidable defensive system, capable of generating an energy shield that can protect us from attack. However, the power required to operate it is beyond our current reserves." As if on cue, alarms began to blare throughout the station. Captain Holt's comm unit crackled to life, the voice of his tactical officer urgent and strained. "Sir, we've got multiple Comarian signatures entering the system. It's a full battle fleet, led by Commander Zexthar himself." Roger's mind raced, formulating a plan. "Nexus, is there a way to repair and enhance our ship using the station's technology?" The AI nodded, its form shimmering. "Indeed, there is an automated repair bay that can integrate Lumina advancements into your vessel. I can guide you through the process." "Do it," Roger said, turning to Uma. "While I work on the ship, see what other information you can extract from the station's databases. Anything that could help us against the Comarians." As Roger hurried to the repair bay, Uma interfaced with the station systems, her eyes widening as she discovered a trove of hidden information. "Roger," she called over the comm. "I've found data on secret Lumina outposts and supply caches throughout the galaxy. This could change everything." In the repair bay, Roger worked feverishly, guided by Nexus's instructions. He watched in amazement as Lumina technology seamlessly integrated with their alien craft, enhancing its weapons, shields, and propulsion systems beyond anything he had ever seen. The station shuddered under the first wave of Cimmerian assault, its automated defenses straining against the onslaught. Roger knew they were running out of time. As he completed the upgrades, Nexus's voice echoed through the bay, its tone grave. "I must inform you of a difficult choice. Without sufficient power, this station and its knowledge will fall to the Cimmerians. I can initiate an overload of the power core, destroying the outpost but denying our enemies its secrets." Roger's face hardened as he considered their options. "We'll split up," he decided, his voice resolute. "I'll take the ship and draw off as many Cimmerian forces as I can. Uma, you stay here and set up the self-destruct sequence. Download everything you can and escape in an emergency pod." Uma nodded, her luminous eyes filled with commitment. "Be careful, Roger. I'll see you on the other side." As Roger climbed into the cockpit of their enhanced vessel, he felt the neural interface activate, connecting his mind directly to the ship's systems. The sensation was exhilarating, unlike anything he had ever experienced. With a thought, he launched the ship, bursting out of the station's docking bay and into the chaos of battle. The Cimmerian fleet loomed before him, a wall of sleek, predatory vessels overflowing with weapons. Roger's enhanced ship tore through their formation, its advanced weaponry leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. He could feel the Cimmerian surprise and fear through the neural link, their coordinated assault faltering in the face of this unexpected threat. Commander Zextar's voice boomed across all frequencies, filled with rage and frustration. "All ships, focus fire on that vessel. Do not let it escape." As the bulk of the Cimmerian fleet turned to pursue him, Roger allowed himself a grim smile. His diversion was working, giving Uma the time she needed to complete her mission. Back on the station, Uma worked frantically, her four hands flying over multiple interfaces as she initiated the overload sequence and downloaded critical data. Nexus's holographic form stood beside her, offering guidance and support. "Uma," the AI said, its voice soft, "I have made a decision. I will upload a portion of my consciousness to your data device. My knowledge must survive to aid your cause." Uma nodded, feeling the weight of history and responsibility settle upon her shoulders. As the station's core reached critical levels, she rushed to the escape pod, clutching the precious data device to her chest. The pod launched just as the first explosions rocked the ancient outpost. Uma watched through tear-filled eyes as the station erupted in a massive burst of energy, taking with it several Cimmerian ships caught in the blast. As the explosion's shockwave created a temporary sensor blackout, both Roger and Uma seized their chance to slip away undetected. Their vessels streaked into the darkness of space, carrying with them the hopes of two civilizations and the key to shifting the balance of power in the galaxy. Roger's voice crackled over the secure comm channel, filled with a mix of exhaustion and excitement. "Uma, do you copy? We made it out, but we're not out of the woods yet. We need to rendezvous and get this intel back to Earth." Uma took a deep breath, steeling herself for the challenges ahead. "I'm here, Roger. Sending you my coordinates now. Let's finish what we started." As they set course for their rendezvous point, both Roger and Uma knew that their journey was far from finished. With enhanced technology, luminous secrets, and the weight of two worlds on their shoulders, they raced against time, hoping to reach Earth before the Cimmerians could regroup and resume their relentless pursuit. As they set course for their rendezvous point, Roger's enhanced ship sliced through the void, its newly integrated Lumina technology humming with scarcely controlled power. The neural interface pulsed with information, giving Roger an almost prescient awareness of his surroundings. Suddenly, Alarms blared as multiple Cimmerian signatures appeared on the long-range sensors. Roger's hands flew over the controls, activating the ship's advanced cloaking technology. The pursuing fleet's energy signatures faded as the cloak engaged, shrouding the vessel in an invisible cocoon. "Uma, we've got company," Roger reported over the comm. "I'm diverting course to the nearby asteroid belt. It should provide additional cover while we regroup." Static crackled over the channel, Uma's response lost in a burst of interference. Roger frowned, adjusting the comm settings. "Uma, do you copy?" Silence answered him. A cold knot of dread formed in Roger's stomach as he realized they had become separated in the chaos of their escape. He pushed the ship harder. Weaving through the asteroid field with inhuman precision, his mind melded with the craft's controls. As he navigated the treacherous maze of space rocks, Roger's sensors picked up a faint, coded signal. His heart leapt as he recognized the frequency, Uma's escape pod. He altered course, following the weak beacon like a lifeline. Meanwhile, Uma sat in her cramped escape pod, her four hands working furiously over the portable device containing the downloaded data from Nexus. The pod's emergency lights cast an eerie glow over her luminous eyes as she sifted through the wealth of information. "Fascinating," she murmured, discovering coordinates for hidden luminous supply caches and outposts scattered throughout the sector. This knowledge could turn the tide of the war. If only she could get it back to Earth. A warning light on the pod's control panel began to flash, accompanied by a shrill alarm. Uma's eyes widened as she realized the life support systems were failing. Oxygen levels were dropping rapidly, the readout ticking down with merciless precision. Drawing on her newfound knowledge of Lumina technology, Uma pried open an access panel and began to rewire the pod systems. Her hands moved with desperate speed, rerouting power and bypassing damaged circuits. With a final connection, the life support stabilized, but at a cost. The improvised repair caused a power surge, amplifying the pod's distress beacon. Uma's heart sank as she realized her position had just been broadcast to friend and foe alike. Roger's enhanced ship raced towards the amplified signal, hope and fear warring in his chest. As he closed in on Uma's position, his sensors lit up with multiple contacts. The Cimmerian fleet had arrived, led by the imposing flagship of Commander Zexthar. Before Roger could formulate a plan, a new signal cut through the chaos. A sleek vessel decloaked nearby, its design unmistakably human. The comm crackled to life, and a woman's voice filled the cockpit. "Unidentified vessel. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the HSS Shadowhawk. We're here on orders from Earth Command to extract you and your companion. What's your status?" Roger quickly explained the situation, emphasizing the urgency of reaching Uma's escape pod. As he spoke, he transmitted some of the Lumina technology specifications to the Shadowhawk, watching with satisfaction as the frigate systems visibly enhanced. "Understood," Captain Vasquez replied, her voice taut with determination. "We'll provide cover while you retrieve the pod. Be advised, our sensors are picking up severe interference from the asteroid field. This could get messy." As if to punctuate her words, a massive energy blast from Zexthar's flagship struck a nearby asteroid. The space rock shattered, its mineral-rich core exploding into a cloud of debris that played havoc with sensors and communication systems across the battlefield. Roger gritted his teeth, relying on the neural interface to navigate the increasingly treacherous environment. He could see Uma's pod now, a tiny speck of light amidst the swirling chaos of rock and energy discharges. Captain Vasquez's voice cut through the static. "We're picking up a massive energy buildup from the Cimmerian flagship. They're preparing to fire their main cannon." Time seemed to slow as Roger pushed his ship to its limits. The neural interface burned white-hot in his mind as he executed maneuvers that would have been impossible for any human pilot. Cimmerian energy blasts sizzled past his hull as he dodged, and weaved through the debris field. Uma's pod loomed larger in his view screen, so close he could almost touch it. Behind him, he saw the blinding flash of Zexthar's main cannon firing into the heart of the asteroid field. The resultant shockwave expanded outward, destroying everything in its path. With no time to spare, Roger extended his ship's energy shields around Uma's pod. The neural interface strained under the pressure as he maintained the precise field while accelerating away from the approaching wall of destruction. The shockwave hit like a physical blow, rattling Roger's teeth and threatening to tear the ship apart. For a heart-stopping moment, alarms blared and systems fluctuated wildly. Then, as suddenly as it began, the chaos subsided. Roger exhaled shakily, realizing he had been holding his breath. He quickly maneuvered his ship to bring Uma's pod into the docking bay, his hands trembling slightly as the adrenaline began to ebb. As the airlock cycled, Roger rushed to meet Uma. She emerged from the pod, her luminous eyes wide with a mix of relief and lingering fear. Without a word, they embraced, each silently acknowledging how close they had come to losing everything. Their moment of respite was short-lived. As they made their way to the bridge, the true extent of their predicament became clear. The debris field had expanded dramatically, creating a labyrinth of twisted metal and rock that trapped both the Shadowhawk and the remaining Comerian ships. Roger settled into the pilot seat, his mind once again connecting with the ship's systems through the neural interface. Uma took her place beside him, her four hands dancing over the controls as she began to analyze their situation. "The Shadowhawk is trapped 2 kilometers to our port," Uma reported, her voice steady despite the tension. "I'm detecting multiple Comerian signatures scattered throughout the debris field, but the interference is making it difficult to get an accurate count." Roger nodded grimly, his eyes scanning the chaos before them. "We need to reach the Shadowhawk and get out of here before Zexthar can regroup his forces. Uma, start plotting us a course through this maze. Use everything we've got, sensors, Luminatech, whatever it takes." As Uma began to work, Roger's hands tightened on the controls. He knew that the next few minutes would determine not just their fate, but potentially the outcome of the entire conflict with the Comerians. With a deep breath, he prepared to navigate the treacherous path ahead, acutely aware that one wrong move could spell disaster. Disaster. With steely perseverance, Roger engaged the ship's thrusters, pushing deeper into the swirling chaos of the debris field. The neural interface hummed with activity as Roger's enhanced senses processed the incoming data at superhuman speeds. Uma's four hands danced across the control panels, her luminous eyes darting between readouts and the view screen. "Multiple contacts, closing fast," Uma reported, her voice tense but controlled. "Comerian signatures, but they're having trouble maintaining formation in this mess." Roger nodded, his focus absolute as he wove the ship through a gap between 2 slowly rotating hull fragments. "Any sign of the Shadowhawk?" "Negative," Uma replied, "but I'm picking up a weak distress signal. It's not the Shadowhawk." Before Roger could respond, a proximity alert blared. He banked hard to port, narrowly avoiding a jagged piece of debris that seemed to materialize out of nowhere. The ship shuddered as smaller fragments pelted its shields. "We need to investigate that signal," Roger said, already adjusting their course. "It could be survivors from the Shadowhawk." Uma's expression was conflicted. "Roger, we don't have time. The Comerians." "We can't leave someone behind," Roger cut her off, his tone brooking no argument. As they approached the source of the distress call, the debris field began to thin. Roger's enhanced vision picked out a small, battered-escape pod wedged between 2 massive chunks of what had once been a Comerian warship. "I'm reading one life sign," Uma reported. "It's faint, but—" "Roger, it's Comerian." Roger's hands tightened on the controls. "Can you get a visual?" Uma manipulated the sensors, zooming in on the escape pod. The image on the display sharpened, revealing a familiar face through a cracked viewport. "It's Zexthar," Uma breathed, her voice a mix of disbelief and concern. Roger's mind raced. The Comarian commander was their sworn enemy, responsible for countless deaths and the destruction of entire colonies. But leaving him to die seemed wrong, a violation of everything they stood for. "We're bringing him aboard," Roger decided, already maneuvering the ship into position. Uma's eyes widened. "Roger, think about what you're doing. He's dangerous, even injured. We could be compromising everything we've fought for." "I know," Roger replied, his voice steady. "But we're better than them, Uma. We don't leave people to die, even our enemies." With precise control, Roger extended the ship's tractor beam, carefully extracting Zexthar's pod from the debris. As it settled into their cargo hold, Uma rushed to provide emergency medical care, drawing on her newly acquired Lumina knowledge. Roger set a course through the debris field, his enhanced senses allowing him to navigate the treacherous maze with uncanny precision. But as they pushed forward, a massive shape loomed before them, previously hidden by the swirling chaos. "Uma, are you seeing this?" Roger asked, his voice filled with awe. "It's impossible," Uma replied, her hands flying over the sensors. "It's an asteroid, but these readings. It's artificial." As they drew closer, strange geometric patterns became visible on the asteroid's surface. Roger attempted to plot a course around it, but an invisible force field blocked their path. "We're being pulled in," Roger announced, fighting the controls. "Brace for landing." The ship touched down on the asteroid's surface with a gentle thud. As the dust settled, Roger and Uma exchanged a look of trepidation and excitement. "What do you think it is?" Roger asked, powering down the engines. Uma's eyes were wide with wonder. "If I had to guess, a Lumina outpost, far more advanced than anything we've seen before." As they prepared to disembark, a series of lights flickered to life along the asteroid's surface, revealing an entrance that seemed to beckon them forward. Roger checked his weapon and nodded to Uma. "Let's see what secrets this place holds. But we need to be quick. The Comarians won't be far behind." Together, they stepped out onto the asteroid's surface, the weight of discovery and danger pressing down on them as they approached the ancient Lumina facility. The entrance yawned open before them, promising answers to questions they hadn't even thought to ask. As they crossed the threshold, light sprang to life, revealing corridors of gleaming metal that seemed untouched by time. Uma's hands traced symbols on the walls, her eyes wide with recognition. "This isn't just an outpost," she whispered. "It's a ship, an ark." Before Roger could respond, a holographic interface materialized before them. It pulsed with energy, seeming to recognize Uma's Lumina heritage. Information flooded their minds as the Ark's AI granted them access to its vast database. "Roger," Uma gasped, her voice filled with awe. "This is incredible. The technology's here, the knowledge. It could change everything." But their exploration was cut short as alarms blared throughout the facility. Roger's enhanced senses picked up the approaching Comarian signatures even before Uma could report them. "We need to leave," Roger said, his mind already racing through possible escape routes. "Now!" As they rushed back to their ship, the Ark's AI presented them with a choice. Its melodious voice echoed in their minds, offering to accompany them by downloading its consciousness into their ship's computer. Roger and Uma shared a look, both understanding the immense value of this offer and the sacrifice it would entail. With a nod, they accepted, initiating the download process as they prepared for emergency takeoff. The ship system surged with power as the Lumina AI integrated itself. Roger's neural interface burned white-hot, overwhelmed by the influx of information and capabilities. "Comarian ships approaching," Uma reported, her hands flying over the controls. Their weapons are charging. Roger gritted his teeth, pushing the ship to its limits. Hang on. This is going to be close. As the first Chimerian energy blast impacted the asteroid's force field, Roger engaged the newly acquired Lumina cloaking technology. The ship shimmered and vanished from sight, slipping past the approaching Chimerian fleet undetected. They burst free of the debris field, the vastness of space opening up before them. Uma let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "We made it," she said, her voice filled with relief and disbelief. Roger nodded, his focus still intense as he piloted the ship. "For now. But we're not out of this yet. Try to re-establish contact with the Shadowhawk." As Uma worked to secure a communication channel, Roger glanced back towards the cargo hold, where their unexpected Chimerian passenger lay unconscious. The weight of their discoveries and the challenges ahead pressed down on him, but he pushed those thoughts aside. Right now, they had a mission to complete and intelligence to deliver. The fate of Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. As the stars streaked by outside the view screen, Roger set a course for the rendezvous point, ready to face whatever came next. Ready to face whatever came their way. However, as they neared the rendezvous point with Earth's fleet, the ship's sensors suddenly lit up with urgent warnings. "Roger, we have a problem," Uma said, her voice tense as she analyzed the incoming data. "I'm detecting a massive Chimerian armada entering the sector. They far outnumber our approaching forces." Roger's enhanced vision scanned the tactical display, his mind rapidly processing the information. "This changes everything. We need to warn the fleet and come up with a plan, fast." As if on cue, the communication system crackled to life. Captain Vasquez's face appeared on the screen, her expression grim. "Roger, Uma, I assume you're seeing what we're seeing. Any ideas?" Roger glanced at the Lumina AI interface, an idea forming. "Captain, we might have an ace up our sleeve. The Lumina AI we picked up suggests we can reconfigure our ship's energy cores to emit a frequency that could disrupt Chimerian weapons and shields." Uma's hands flew over the controls, already working to implement the modifications. "It's risky, but it might give us the edge we need." "Do it," Vasquez ordered. "I'll relay the information to the rest of the fleet. We'll need every advantage we can get." As Roger and Uma worked feverishly to modify their ship systems, a commotion from the cargo hold caught their attention. Uma quickly checked the internal sensors. "Roger, Zexthar's awake," she reported. "He's trying to access some kind of hidden device." Without hesitation, Roger sprinted to the cargo hold. He found the Chimerian commander fumbling with a small, concealed communicator. In one fluid motion, Roger disarmed Zexthar and secured the device. "Nice try," Roger said, his enhanced strength easily overpowering the injured Chimerian. "But you're not calling for help today." Back on the bridge, Uma finished the system modifications just as the Earth fleet arrived at the rendezvous point. Roger's ship took the lead, its newly reconfigured energy core pulsing with power. "All ships, this is Roger," he broadcast to the fleet. "Adjust your energy emissions to match our frequency. It should disrupt the Chimerian systems." As the Chimerian armada closed in, the effects of the modified energy emissions became immediately apparent. Chimerian ships began to veer off course, their weapons misfiring or failing to deploy altogether. Roger's neural link hummed with activity as he piloted his ship with superhuman precision. He wove through the chaos, targeting key Chimerian vessels and creating openings for the Earth fleet to exploit. Uma's voice cut through his concentration. "Roger, they're adapting. They're launching smaller attack craft that aren't as affected by our disruptions." Sure enough, a swarm of agile Chimerian fighters emerged from the larger ships, zeroing in on Roger's vessel. "Time to shake things up," Roger muttered. He pushed the ship into a steep dive, plunging directly into the heart of the Comarian formation. "Roger, what are you doing?" Uma cried, her hands gripping the console. "Using their own ships as shields," he replied, his focus absolute as he maneuvered through the tightly packed enemy vessels. The gambit worked. Comarian ships fired on their own comrades in their attempts to hit Roger's craft, sowing confusion and chaos in their ranks. As the battle raged on, the Lumina AI suddenly projected a new set of coordinates. "Anomaly detected," its melodious voice announced. "Lumina arc signature identified in nearby star system." Uma's eyes widened. "Another arc? Like the one we found earlier?" "Affirmative," the AI responded. "Activation of this arc could provide significant tactical advantage in current conflict." Roger and Uma exchanged a look, both understanding the weight of this discovery. "We can't abandon the fleet," Roger said, his hand steady on the controls as he evaded another barrage of Comarian fire. Uma nodded, her mind racing. "What if we split up? I could take a shuttle to investigate the Ark while you continue leading the attack here." Roger considered this for a moment, then nodded. "Do it. Take a team from the Shadowhawk with you. We'll hold the line here." As Uma prepared to depart, Roger opened a channel to Captain Vasquez. "Captain, we've got a potential game changer. Uma's heading to investigate a Lumina artifact that could turn the tide of this battle. I need you to provide cover for her shuttle." "Understood," Vasquez replied. "We've got her back. You just focus on keeping those Comarian bastards off balance." With a final nod to Roger, Uma boarded the shuttle and launched, escorted by a small contingent of Earth fighters. Roger turned his attention back to the battle, his neural link allowing him to process the complex ebb and flow of the conflict. He began coordinating with the Earth fleet, using the Lumina AI to devise intricate attack patterns that slowly pushed back the Comarian forces. In the cargo hold, Zexar watched the battle unfold on a small monitor, his expression a mix of fury and reluctant admiration. He had never seen humans fight with such coordination and effectiveness. As Roger shipped of and weaved through the Comarian defenses, he couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. With Uma racing to unlock the secrets of the Lumina Arc and the Earth fleet holding strong, they might just have a chance at turning this war around. But the battle was just the beginning. The Comarians were adapting, learning, and Roger knew that every moment counted. He pushed his enhanced reflexes to their limit, determined to buy Uma the time she needed. The fate of Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. Hung in the balance as Roger executed another daring maneuver, narrowly avoiding a barrage of Comarian fire. The neural link hummed with activity as Roger's enhanced reflexes guided the ship through the chaos of battle. His mind processed countless variables, anticipating enemy movements and coordinating with the Earth fleet simultaneously. "All ships, form up on my position," Roger commanded through the comm channel. "We're pushing for their command vessels." The Lumina AI's melodious voice chimed in, adjusting fleet formation for optimal defensive coverage. Probability of success, 68, 7%. As the Earth ships fell into formation, Roger noticed a shift in the Comarian tactics. A group of specialized enemy vessels broke off from the main force, their weapons glowing with an ominous energy. "New threat detected," the AI warned. "Unknown energy signature not affected by current disruption field." Roger's eyes narrowed as he watched the specialized Comarian ships unleash a devastating barrage against the Earth fleet. Several human vessels buckled under the assault, their shields failing against the new weaponry. "Analyze that energy signature," Roger ordered the AI. "We need a countermeasure now." His fingers danced across the controls, initiating evasive maneuvers while his mind raced to find a solution. The Lumina AI worked in tandem with his neural link, processing the data at incredible speeds. "Analysis complete," the AI announced. "Countermeasure developed, implementing across fleet systems." Roger felt a surge of relief as the new defensive measures took effect. The Earthship's shield shimmered with a new frequency, deflecting the specialized Cimmerian weapons. "Nice work," Roger muttered, allowing himself a small smile. The moment of triumph was short-lived as the comm system crackled with an urgent transmission. Captain Elena Vasquez's face appeared on the screen, her expression grim. "Roger, we've got a problem," she said, her voice tense. "Long-range sensors have picked up a second Cimmerian fleet entering the sector. At their current speed, they'll be on us in less than an hour." Roger's mind raced, calculating their odds. Even with the new countermeasures, they couldn't hope to withstand a second full Cimmerian fleet. "We need to buy time," he said, an idea forming. "Captain, I have a plan. It's risky, but it might be our only shot." He quickly outlined his strategy to use Commander Zexthar to transmit false orders to the incoming fleet. Vasquez listened intently, her brow furrowed in concentration. "It's a gamble," she said after a moment's consideration. "But you're right. We're out of options." "Do it." Roger nodded, cutting the transmission. He made his way to the ship's hold, where Zexthar was being held under guard. The Cimmerian commander looked up as Roger entered, his alien features unreadable. "Commander," Roger began, meeting Zexthar's gaze, "I think it's time we had a talk about the future of this conflict." Meanwhile, light years away, Uma's shuttle approached the coordinates of the dormant Lumina arc. The small vessel's sensors hummed with activity as they scanned the surrounding space. "We're picking up an energy signature," one of Uma's team members reported. "It's massive." Uma leaned forward, her eyes widening as the sensor data will-powered into a clear image. A colossal Cimmerian research station orbited a nearby gas giant, its hull dripping with sensors and antennae. "They beat us to it," Uma breathed, her mind racing. "They must have found the arc first." She studied the readouts, noting the strange energy fluctuations around the station. The Lumina arc was there, partially phased into subspace, making it nearly invisible to conventional sensors. "We can't take them head-on," Uma said, formulating a plan. "But maybe we don't have to." She turned to her team, her eyes gleaming with persistence. "We're going to infiltrate that station." Using the knowledge provided by the Lumina AI, Uma and her team quickly modified their shuttle's energy signature. The small craft's emissions shifted, mimicking those of a Cimmerian vessel. "This is our ticket in," Uma explained as they approached the station. "With luck, they'll think we're one of their own." The shuttle glided towards a massive structure, its disguise holding under the station's scans. As they docked in one of the auxiliary bays, Uma felt a mix of anticipation and dread. They had made it inside, but the real challenge was just beginning. "Remember," she said to her team as they prepared to disembark, "we're here for two things: intelligence on their research and a way to activate the arc. Stay alert, stay hidden, and if anything goes wrong, we abort and get out. Clear?" Her team nodded, their faces set with drive. Uma took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. As the airlock cycled open, she stepped into the heart of the Cimmerian research station, the fate of the battle and perhaps the entire war resting on what they would discover within its walls. Walls of the Cimmerian research station. Uma's fingers flew across the alien control panel, her enhanced mind processing the complex Cimmerian systems at an astonishing rate. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she worked to disable the station's fail-safe protocol. "Status report," she called out, not taking her eyes off the screen. "Perimeter secure," one of her team members responded. "No immediate threats detected." Another team member monitoring communications suddenly tensed. "Uma, we've got a problem. I just intercepted a transmission from Cimmerian High Command. They're ordering the station to initiate the fail-safe sequence immediately." Uma's heart raced as she redoubled her efforts. "We don't have much time," Keep me covered. Her fingers danced across the interface, combining hacked Comarian access codes with intricate Lumina encryption techniques. The station's systems resisted her attempts, but Uma pushed harder, her enhanced abilities allowing her to interface with the computer at an unprecedented speed. Warning klaxons began to blare throughout the station as the failsafe sequence initiated. Uma gritted her teeth, pushing through the final firewalls. Come on, she muttered, her eyes flicking between multiple data streams. With a final burst of effort, Uma broke through the last layer of security. The failsafe protocol deactivated mere seconds before it would have triggered, plunging the station into silence. Uma exhaled sharply, allowing herself a brief moment of relief before turning her attention to the dormant Lumina arc. She interfaced with the station's equipment, establishing a tentative link with the arc systems. As Uma worked to awaken the ancient technology, one of her team members called out urgently, "Incoming! Comarian squad approaching the control room." "Barricade the entrance," Uma ordered, not looking up from her task. "Buy me as much time as you can." Her team sprang into action, quickly fortifying their position. The sound of heavy footsteps and alien voices grew louder outside the control room. Uma's connection with the Lumina arc deepened. She felt its vast system stirring, responding to her touch. The massive structure began to phase fully into normal space, its presence sending ripples through the fabric of reality. The first impacts of Comarian weapons' fire against the barricaded door echoed through the control room. Uma's team returned fire, their advanced weapons keeping the enemy at bay for now. "Uma, we can't hold them off forever," one of her team members shouted over the din of battle. "Just a little longer," Uma replied, her concentration unbroken as she guided the Ark's awakening. In the space battle raging outside, Roger led the Earth fleet in a desperate holding action against the Comarian forces. His neural link hummed with activity as he coordinated complex maneuvers, using every trick and tactic at his disposal. A transmission from Uma cut through the chaos. "Roger, I've linked with the Ark. It's awakening, but I need more time. We're under heavy assault here." Roger made a split-second decision. "Captain Vasquez, I need you to dispatch the Shadowhawk strike team to Uma's location. They need reinforcements now." "Understood," Vasquez responded. "Lieutenant Harris, you're up. Get your team to that station and secure our people." As the strike team launched, Roger turned his attention back to the battle. He noticed the Comarian ships starting to falter, their formations becoming erratic. "Commander Zexthar," Roger called out to his Comarian prisoner, "what's happening to your fleet?" Zexthar studied the tactical display, his alien features contorting in confusion. I'm not sure. It's as if their systems are malfunctioning." Roger's eyes widened as he realized the cause. It's the Ark. Its awakening is interfering with their technology. Seizing the opportunity, Roger ordered a concentrated assault on the Comarian flagship. His ship dove through the enemy formation, weaving between bursts of weapons fire with inhuman precision. Back on the station, Uma felt the Ark's power surging through her. Its systems came online one by one, each activation sending pulses of energy rippling through space. The door to the control room finally gave way under the Comarian assault. Uma's team fell back, forming a protective ring around her as she worked. Just as the situation seemed most dire, Lieutenant Harris and his strike team burst onto the scene. They engaged the Comarian forces in close-quarters combat, their superior training and equipment turning the tide. "Ma'am," Harris called out to Uma as he dispatched a Comarian soldier. "Whatever you're doing, I suggest you do it faster." Uma nodded, pushing herself to the limit. The Ark's awakening reached a critical stage, its energy building to a crescendo. In space, Roger lined up his final attack run on the Comarian flagship. As he prepared to fire, a massive surge of energy erupted from the station, engulfing both Earth and Cimmerian ships alike. For a moment, everything went silent. Ships drifted powerless in space, their systems overwhelmed by the Ark's energy. Roger quickly recovered, realizing the unique opportunity presented by this moment of ceasefire. He opened a channel to the Cimmerian fleet. "This is Roger Donovan of the Earth Forces," he broadcast. "Your shields are down, your weapons are offline, and we have your commander. The Lumina Ark is now under our control. Stand down or face annihilation." As the Cimmerian leaders deliberated, Uma completed the Ark's activation sequence. The massive structure fully materialized in normal space, its advanced defense systems creating a protective field around itself and the station. The Cimmerian fleet, faced with this display of power and their own vulnerability, had no choice. One by one, they signaled their surrender. Roger exhaled slowly, the tension of battle finally easing from his shoulders. He turned to Zexthar, who stood silently observing the scene. "It seems, Commander," Roger said, "that we have much to discuss about the future of our two peoples." As the Earth forces secured their hard-won victory, Roger knew that this was only the beginning. The awakened Lumina Ark represented power beyond imagination, and its impact on the galactic stage was yet to be fully understood. Uma's voice crackled over the comm, tinged with exhaustion but triumphant. "Roger, we did it. The Ark is ours." Roger nodded, his mind already racing with the challenges that lay ahead. "Good work, Uma. Now comes the hard part. Prepare for extraction. We've got a lot of work to do." "Due ahead. Now comes the hard part." Roger's words hung in the air as he terminated the communication with Uma. He turned to face the expansive viewport, watching as the Earth fleet began to encircle the surrendered Cimmerian ships. The battle was won, but the aftermath would require careful handling. "Captain Vasquez," Roger called out, opening a channel to the HSS Shadowhawk. "Begin disarming and detaining the Cimmerian vessels. I want a full security sweep of each ship before we allow any of their crew to be transferred." "Understood," Vasquez replied, her image appearing on a nearby screen. "We're deploying boarding parties now. What about the research station?" Roger's eyes narrowed as he considered the question. "I'm heading there myself to rendezvous with Uma and her team. We need to secure that facility and assess the Lumina Ark as quickly as possible." As Roger's ship disengaged from the main fleet and made its way towards the massive Cimmerian research station, he couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. The Ark represented a turning point in human history, and he was about to step into the heart of it. The docking procedure was smooth, despite the station's unfamiliar design. As the airlock cycled open, Roger was met by Lieutenant Marcus Harris, his plasma rifle held at the ready. "Sir," Harris greeted him with a sharp nod, "we've secured the main areas of the station, but there are still a few pockets of resistance. Uma's in the central control room, working on locking down the sensitive areas." Roger fell into step beside Harris as they moved through the station's winding corridors. The architecture was a strange blend of Cimmerian utilitarianism and the flowing, organic lines of Lumina design. As they walked, Roger could hear the sounds of distant weapons fire and shouted orders as Harris's team continued to root out the remaining Cimmerian holdouts. They entered the control room to find Uma hunched over a console, her fingers dancing across the alien interface with inhuman speed. She looked up as they entered, a thin sheen of sweat visible on her forehead. "Roger," she said, her voice tight with concentration, "I've managed to secure most of the critical systems, but the Cimmerians have some impressive encryption. It's taking longer than I'd like to fully lock them out." Roger moved to her side, studying the streams of data flowing across the screens. "What about the Ark? Have you been able to access its systems?" Uma nodded, gesturing to another console. "I've established a preliminary connection. Your ship's AI should be able to interface directly now. But Roger, the amount of data here, it's staggering. We've barely scratched the surface of what the Lumina knew. As if on cue, a holographic projection flickered to life in the center of the room. The Lumina AI's avatar, a shifting pattern of light and color, spoke in its melodious voice. Creator Roger, Creator Uma, I have successfully linked with the Ark's primary database. I am now processing the vast stores of information contained within. There is much to learn, but I have already made a troubling discovery. Roger leaned forward, his interest piqued. What kind of discovery? The AI's form rippled, projecting images of strange, dark shapes moving against a backdrop of stars. The Lumina did not simply disappear or choose to go into hiding. They were forced to flee from a great and terrible threat, an ancient enemy that nearly destroyed them, despite all their advanced technology. Uma's eyes widened as she absorbed this information. An enemy powerful enough to challenge the Lumina? That's terrifying. Before Roger could respond, Lieutenant Harris's voice crackled over the comm. Sir, we've got a situation. Commander Zexthar is requesting to speak with you. He says it's urgent. Roger exchanged a glance with Uma before responding. Very well. Bring him to the secondary conference room. We'll meet him there. As they made their way to the conference room, Roger's mind raced with possibilities. What could Zexthar want? And how would this new information about the Lumina's ancient enemy factor into their already precarious situation? The conference room door slid open, revealing the imposing figure of Commander Zexthar, flanked by armed guards. The Comarian leader's alien features were difficult to read, but Roger sensed a mix of resignation and calculation in his stance. Human, Zexthar began, his translator converting the clicks and whistles of his native language into English. You have bested us in battle and awakened powers beyond our comprehension. I come to you now not as an enemy, but as one who seeks a new path forward. Roger crossed his arms, maintaining a neutral expression. I'm listening, Commander. What exactly are you proposing? Zexthar's compound eyes flicked between Roger and Uma. A conditional surrender. In exchange for leniency and a role in future research efforts, I offer you something valuable. Intelligence on other suspected Lumina sites throughout the galaxy. Uma leaned forward, her interest clearly piqued. Other sites? You mean there are more Arks out there? Potentially, Zexthar replied. Our expansion was driven, in part, by the search for Lumina technology. We have compiled extensive data on anomalous energy signatures and ruins that may be of Lumina origin. Roger was about to respond when a priority alert flashed across his neural link. His expression darkened as he processed the incoming message from Earth Command. It seems your leaders aren't as interested in peace as you are, Zexthar, Roger said, his voice tight. We've just received word that the Comarian High Council has ordered a full mobilization of their remaining forces. They're preparing for an all-out assault on Earth and its colonies. The room fell silent as the implications of this news sank in. Uma was the first to speak, her voice urgent. We need to act fast, Roger. If we can move the Ark closer to Earth, we could use it as a defensive platform. Roger shook his head, considering the options. That's too risky. Moving something this big would attract attention from who knows how many other species. We need a different approach. He turned to the Lumina AI's holographic avatar. You said there might be other Lumina outposts out there. Can we use the Ark systems to contact them? Wake them up? The AI's form shimmered as it processed the request. It is possible, Creator Roger. The Ark contains long-range communication systems capable of reaching across vast distances of space. However, activating these systems may also alert others to our presence. As Roger weighed the pros and cons of the strategy, the AI's avatar suddenly pulsed with urgency. Creators, I have detected an anomalous energy signature in a nearby star system. It bears similarities to Lumina technology, but there are significant discrepancies. Uma's eyes widened in realization. Could it be the ancient enemy you mentioned earlier? The AI's response was tinged with uncertainty. The probability is high. If this is indeed a resurgence of the threat that forced Illumina into hiding, it adds a new level of urgency to our situation. Roger's mind raced as he processed this new information. They now faced not just the immediate threat of a Chimerian assault, but also the potential awakening of an ancient and powerful enemy. The decisions they made in the next few moments could shape the fate of not just humanity, but potentially all sentient life in the galaxy. He looked around the room, taking in the faces of Uma, Zexthar, and the shimmering form of the Lumina AI. Each represented a different facet of the complex situation they now faced. As the weight of impending choices settled on his shoulders, Roger took a deep breath, preparing to chart a course through the storm that lay ahead. The situation demanded decisive action, and Roger knew he had to make a choice that would shape the future of humanity and potentially the entire galaxy. "We need to wake up the other Lumina outposts," Roger announced, his voice cutting through the tension in the room. "It's our best chance at creating a network of allies and fortifying our position." Uma nodded, her fingers already flying across the console. "I'll start the activation sequence for the Ark's long-range communication systems. We'll need to be careful, though. This could attract unwanted attention." As Uma worked, Roger turned to Captain Vasquez, who was still connected via holographic link. "Captain, I need you to establish a defensive perimeter around the Ark and the research station. Use every ship we've got. We can't risk losing this foothold." "Understood, sir," Vasquez replied, her image flickering slightly. "I'll coordinate with the fleet immediately." Roger then addressed Zexthar, who had remained silent throughout the exchange. "Commander, I need more information about your High Council's plans. What exactly are we up against?" Zexthar's compound eyes narrowed, a sign of internal conflict. After a moment he spoke, his translator conveying a tone of resignation. "The High Council has been developing a superweapon in secret, a planet-killer-class vessel called the Worldbreaker. It's unlike anything your people have ever faced." The revelation sent a chill through the room. Roger's mind raced with the implications. How close is it to being deployed? "Too close," Zexthar replied. They were waiting for the right moment. With the activation of the Lumina Arc, they may see this as their last opportunity to strike before humanity gains too much power. As they spoke, Uma's efforts began to yield results. The Lumina AI's avatar pulsed with new information. "Creators, I am detecting responses from multiple Lumina outposts across the galaxy. They are coming online and establishing secure communication links with our Ark." Roger moved to Uma's side, studying the holographic display of the growing Lumina network. Points of light blinked into existence, representing awakened installations scattered throughout the stars. It was an awe-inspiring sight, but it also filled him with a sense of unease. They were changing the balance of power in the galaxy, and there was no telling how other species might react. As if in answer to his thoughts, the AI spoke again. "Creators, I am detecting increased activity from multiple alien civilizations. Some appear to be mobilizing their fleets in response to the Lumina activations." Before Roger could respond, Lieutenant Harris's voice crackled over the comm, filled with static and urgency. "Sir, we've reached the source of the anomalous energy signature. It's some kind of ancient space station, definitely not Lumina or Chimerian. We're moving in for a closer look. Wait, something's happening. Our systems are..." The transmission cut off abruptly. Roger tried to reestablish contact, but to no avail. He turned to Uma, his expression grim. "We need to mount a rescue operation. I'll lead it myself." Uma looked up from her console, concern etched on her face. "Roger, we need you here. The situation is getting more complex by the minute. I know, Roger replied, already moving towards a door. But I can't ask my people to take risks I'm not willing to take myself. Captain Vasquez will take command of the fleet in my absence. Uma, I need you to keep coordinating the Lumina activations and work on integrating their defensive capabilities into our systems. He paused at the threshold, looking back at the room's occupants. We're on the brink of something big here. Maybe the biggest moment in human history. Let's make sure we're on the right side of it. With that, Roger left to prepare for the rescue mission. He assembled a small team of elite soldiers and boarded his enhanced alien craft. As they launched from the station, he could see the Earth fleet forming a protective barrier around the Lumina Arc. As they approached the coordinates of the mysterious ancient station, Roger's neural link buzzed with incoming data. Uma's voice filled his mind, transmitted across the vast distance of space. Roger, I've made a breakthrough with the Arc's defensive systems. We might be able to create a network of energy shields to protect multiple star systems. But it's risky. It'll take a massive amount of power and could draw attention from that ancient threat the Lumina were running from. Roger processed the information as he piloted the craft towards their destination. Hold off on activating it for now, Uma. We need to understand what we're dealing with first. As they neared the ancient station, Roger's sensors picked up multiple unidentified vessels, converging on their position. The situation was growing more complex by the second. He opened a channel to his team. Stay alert. We may be walking into a first contact situation with multiple species. Remember your training, but be prepared for anything. The ancient station loomed before them, its architecture unlike anything Roger had ever seen. As they approached, he could see Harris's disabled shuttle being drawn into a docking bay by a tractor beam. Roger maneuvered his craft to follow, keeping a wary eye on the approaching alien ships. As they entered the station's cavernous interior, Roger's mind raced with possibilities. They were about to step into the unknown, potentially altering the course of galactic history. Whatever lay ahead, he knew that the decisions made in the coming hours would shape the fate of humanity and countless other species across the stars. The craft touched down in the alien docking bay, and Roger led his team towards the airlock. As the door hissed open, they stepped into the mysterious station, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them in the depths of this ancient construct. Structure. As the airlock sealed behind them, Roger's team found themselves in a corridor unlike anything they had ever encountered. The walls seemed to shimmer and shift, made of an unknown material that defied conventional physics. Stay alert, Roger commanded, his voice low. We don't know what kind of defenses this place might have. They had barely taken a few steps when Roger's neural link buzzed with an incoming transmission. It was Uma, her voice filled with urgency. Roger, we've got company. Multiple alien vessels are converging on your position. I'm picking up energy signatures from at least 5 different species. Roger's mind raced. This complicated matters significantly. Understood, Uma. Keep me posted on their movements. As they pressed deeper into the station, Roger's enhanced alien craft suddenly lurched, hit by the same energy pulse that had disabled Lieutenant Harris's shuttle. For a heart-stopping moment, Roger feared they would be stranded. But the Lumina AI quickly adapted, reinforcing the shields and maintaining power. Remarkable. The AI's voice echoed in Roger's mind. This station's defenses are unlike anything in my databanks, but I've managed to counter them for now. Roger nodded, grateful for the AI's quick thinking. Can you establish communication with those other ships? Affirmative, the AI responded. Connecting now. A burst of static filled Roger's neural link, followed by a cacophony of alien languages. The AI swiftly translated, allowing Roger to understand the chaotic exchange. One voice, deep and guttural, stood out from the rest. This is Captain Krell of the Zeraxian cruiser Fong of Justice. Identify yourselves or be destroyed. Roger took a deep breath, knowing his next words could mean the difference between a bloodbath and a potential alliance. This is Roger Campbell of Earth. We're here on a rescue mission for our recon team. I propose we work together to investigate the station and find our people. There was a tense pause before Krell responded. The human speaks of cooperation. Interesting. Very well, Campbell. We'll form a temporary alliance. But know this. At the first sign of treachery, I'll personally tear you apart. With the uneasy coalition formed, Roger led his team deeper into the station, using the Lumina AI to navigate the twisting corridors. Holographic defenses sprang to life, projecting illusions of dead ends and phantom enemies. But the AI quickly identified patterns in the hologram's programming, allowing them to push through. As they navigated the maze-like interior, Roger's neural link buzzed again. This time, it was Captain Vasquez. Sir, we've detected a massive energy surge from Earth. UMA's activated more Lumina outposts, and they've created some kind of defensive network. But there's a problem. That anomalous energy signature you detected earlier? It's growing stronger. Fast. Roger's stomach tightened. They were running out of time. Understood, Captain. We're close to finding Harris. Stand by for further orders. After what felt like hours of navigating the shifting corridors, they finally reached a vast chamber at the station's core. There, surrounded by pulsating energy conduits and bizarre machinery, they found Lieutenant Harris and his team. Commander, Harris called out, relief evident in his voice. Am I glad to see you. This place. It's like nothing we've ever seen. As soon as we arrived, everything started powering up. Before Roger could respond, the chamber filled with a brilliant light. A holographic figure materialized before them, its form constantly shifting between different alien species. I am the Guardian, it announced, its voice resonating through the chamber. Created by the precursors to watch over this galaxy, your presence has awakened me from my long slumber. Roger stepped forward, his knees going weak from the implications. Guardian, we need your help. Our world is in danger, and we've detected a threat that even the Lumina feared. The Guardian's form shimmered, coalescing into a more humanoid shape. Yes, I am aware. The Void Hunters. They nearly destroyed all life in this galaxy eons ago. And now, with the awakening of Lumina technology, they will soon return to finish what they started. Roger's blood ran cold at the revelation. But before he could respond, Uma's frantic voice cut through his neural link. Roger, the Chimerian World Breaker has entered our solar system. Earth's defenses are online, but I don't know if they'll be enough. We need to act now. Roger looked at the Guardian, then at the alien leaders who had joined them in the chamber. He knew that the decisions made in the next few moments would shape the fate of not just humanity, but all sentient life in the galaxy. Guardian, Roger said, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. We need your help, not just to save Earth, but to prepare for the return of the Void Hunters. Will you join us? The Guardian's form pulsed with energy as it considered Roger's words. The fate of the galactic realm hung in the balance, awaiting its response. The Guardian's form pulsed once more, its energy rippling through the chamber. Very well, Roger Campbell of Earth. I will join your cause. The threat of the Void Hunters cannot be ignored, and your species has shown remarkable potential. Roger felt a wave of relief wash over him, but it was short-lived. Uma's voice cut through his neural link again, urgent and filled with static. Roger, we're out of time. The Chimerian World Breaker has entered the solar system. Earth's defenses are active, but they won't hold for long. Understood, Uma, Roger replied, his mind racing. He turned to the Guardian and the assembled alien leaders. We need to move fast. Guardian, Can you help us integrate your technology with our ships? The Guardian nodded, its form shifting to resemble a humanoid figure. It can be done, but it will require precise coordination and your full cooperation. Roger wasted no time. He opened a channel to Captain Vasquez, his voice steady despite the tension. Captain, prepare the fleet for immediate upgrades. We're integrating precursor tech into our systems. As Roger coordinated the massive undertaking, Uma worked tirelessly from the precursor station. Her fingers flew across holographic interfaces, activating and relocating key Lumina outposts, using the station's advanced slip-space technology. The network of Lumina installations began to form a defensive perimeter around Earth, creating a web of energy shields and weapon platforms. The process of upgrading Earth's fleet was nothing short of miraculous. Under the Guardian's guidance, precursor technology merged seamlessly with human engineering. Ships that had once seemed primitive in the face of alien technology now bristled with advanced weaponry and shields. As the final preparations were made, long-range sensors detected the approach of the Cimmerian Worldbreaker and its accompanying fleet. The planet-killer vessel loomed large on the interfaces, its main cannon capable of reducing entire worlds to rubble. Roger stood on the bridge of his flagship, now enhanced with precursor tech. He surveyed the Coalition fleet, a mix of Earth vessels and alien ships, including Captain Krell's Xeraxian cruiser. The sight of the Worldbreaker sent a ripple of unease through the assembled forces, but Roger's voice remained calm as he addressed them. "This is the moment we prepared for," he said, his words transmitted across the fleet. "Earth stands on the brink, but we are not alone. Today, we fight not just for humanity, but for the future of this galaxy." Roger outlined his battle plan, dividing the Coalition fleet into strategic groups. Captain Krell's Xeraxian cruiser, along with a contingent of Earth ships, would engage the Cimmerian support fleet. Meanwhile, Roger would lead a strike team aboard his enhanced alien craft, targeting the Worldbreaker directly. As the Cimmerian fleet entered the outer edges of the solar system, Earth launched its first wave of attacks. The upgraded Earth ships, their hulls glowing with newly integrated precursor weaponry, tore through space. Their weapons proved far more effective against Cimmerian defenses than anyone had dared hope. The void of space erupted into a dazzling display of energy weapons and missiles. Cimmerian ships, caught off guard by the sudden leap in Earth's technological capabilities, struggled to regroup. Captain Krell's Xeraxian forces pressed the advantage, their aggressive tactics keeping a significant portion of the Cimmerian fleet occupied. Roger's strike team made their move, using the enhanced maneuverability and cloaking capabilities of their alien craft to approach the Worldbreaker undetected. As they neared the massive vessel, Roger's neural link buzzed with Uma's voice. "Roger, I'm detecting an energy buildup in the Worldbreaker's main cannon. You need to disable it before it fires." Roger acknowledged the warning, guiding his team towards a docking port on the Worldbreaker's hull. They breached the ship's outer defenses, fighting their way through corridors filled with Cimmerian security forces. The close-quarters combat was intense, but the integrated Lumina and precursor technology in their gear gave them a crucial edge. As Roger's team pushed deeper into the Worldbreaker, Uma monitored the battle from the precursor station. She coordinated the Lumina defense network, providing real-time tactical data to all allied ships. Sensing the urgency of Roger's mission, Uma made a bold decision. She used the precursor station's slip-space technology to transport several Lumina outposts directly into the path of the Worldbreaker's cannon. Ready to intercept and dissipate the weapon's energy if Roger's team failed to disable it in time. Inside the Worldbreaker, Roger and his remaining team members finally reached the control room. They engaged in a fierce firefight with the Cimmerian commanders, the air thick with energy blasts and the acrid smell of burnt circuitry. Roger, his movements enhanced by his neural link with Lumina technology, fought his way to the central console. With alarms blaring and the ship shuddering around him, Roger initiated the shutdown sequence for the World Breaker's main cannon. The massive energy buildup began to destabilize, causing cascading failures throughout the ship systems. Comarian crew members scrambled in panic as their prized weapon turned against them. As the World Breaker's threat was neutralized, the tide of the battle shifted decisively in favor of the coalition forces. Earth ships, alongside their alien allies, pressed their advantage against the now disorganized Comarian fleet. The Lumina Defense Network proved its worth, intercepting and destroying numerous Comarian vessels attempting to break through to Earth. Victory seemed within reach, but the battle was just the beginning. As Roger and his team fought to escape the failing World Breaker, Uma's voice cut through the chaos once more, her tone filled with dread. "Roger, we have a new problem. The Guardian AI just detected multiple Void Hunter signatures at the edge of the solar system. They're coming, and they're coming fast." Roger's blood ran cold as he realized that their hard-fought victory might be short-lived. The galaxy's most ancient and terrifying enemy was now at their doorstep, drawn by the massive energy emissions of the battle. As he raced back to his ship, Roger knew that the true test of humanity's persistence was only just beginning. The galaxy's most ancient and terrifying enemy was now at their doorstep, drawn by the massive energy emissions of the battle. As he raced back to his ship, Roger knew that the true test of humanity's persistence was only just beginning. The void of space around them seemed to warp and twist as the Void Hunters began to materialize at the edge of the solar system. Massive, dark structures that appeared to absorb light and energy materialized, creating an eerie visual distortion that sent chills down Roger's spine. "Uma, what's our status?" Roger asked, his voice tense as he maneuvered his ship away from the failing World Breaker. "The Void Hunters are approaching rapidly," Uma responded, her voice crackling through the neural link. "I'm detecting multiple signatures, each one larger than anything we've encountered before." Roger's mind raced. They had just emerged victorious against the Comarians, but this new threat made their previous enemy seem almost trivial in comparison. He knew they needed to act fast. "Everyone listen up," Roger broadcast to the coalition forces. "We need to secure the World Breaker. It may be our best chance against these new hostiles." Without waiting for a response, Roger guided his ship back towards the disabled Comarian vessel. As they approached, he could see the extent of the damage they had inflicted. The once mighty planet killer now drifted listlessly, its hull scarred and its systems in disarray. Roger and his team boarded the World Breaker, fighting their way through the chaos of the failing ship. Alarms blared, and emergency lights cast an eerie red glow through the corridors. They encountered pockets of resistance from the remaining Comarian crew, but their advanced weaponry and enhanced reflexes made short work of any opposition. Finally, they reached the command center. The room was a mess of sparking consoles and panicked Comarian officers. In the center of it all stood Admiral Zorix, the ship's captain, his face a mask of defeat and anger. Roger approached him, weapon raised. "Admiral Zorix, I presume?" The Comarian leader sneered. "Come to gloat, human?" "We don't have time for that," Roger replied, his voice hard. "We're facing a threat that could destroy us all. I need information about this ship's systems and capabilities." Zorix's eyes widened as he glanced at the sensor readouts, showing the approaching Void Hunters. After a moment of hesitation, he nodded. "What do you want to know?" As Roger extracted crucial information from Zorix, Uma's voice cut through his neural link once more. "Roger, the Guardian AI and I have made a discovery. The Void Hunters are vulnerable to specific energy frequencies generated by combining Lumina and precursor technologies." Roger's pulse quickened at this news. "Can we weaponize it?" "We're working on a plan now," Uma replied. "But we'll need a massive energy source to make it effective." Roger looked around the World Breaker's command center, an idea forming. "What about this ship? Could we retrofit it with our tech?" There was a pause as Uma considered. It's possible, but it would be a massive undertaking. Then we'd better get started, Roger said. He turned to his team. Secure the ship and begin the retrofit process. We're going to turn this planet killer into our best defense. As Roger's team began the daunting task of integrating Earth, Lumina, and precursor technologies into the Worldbreaker systems, he received a transmission from Captain Krell. Campbell, the Zeraxian's gruff voice came through. My forces have routed the remaining Chimerian fleet. What's our next move? Roger quickly briefed Krell on the situation. We need to buy time for the retrofit. Can your ships form a first line of defense against the Void Hunters? Krell's response was immediate. Consider it done. We'll show these Void Dwellers the might of the Zeraxian fleet. As the retrofit process began in earnest, long-range scans revealed new information about their enemy. The Void Hunters weren't a single entity, but a swarm of smaller, synchronized units. This knowledge allowed Uma and the Guardian AI to refine their defensive strategies, focusing on disrupting the swarm's collective behavior. Earth's leaders, now fully aware of the existential threat, declared a global state of emergency. Every resource on the planet was directed towards a defense effort. Factories worked around the clock, producing the specialized equipment needed for the upcoming battle. As the first wave of Void Hunters entered the outer solar system, Roger stood on the bridge of the newly retrofitted Worldbreaker. The ship hummed with power, its systems a unique blend of technologies from across the galaxy. All stations report in, Roger commanded, his voice steady despite the tension. One by one, the stations reported their readiness. The Coalition fleet moved into position, forming a multi-layered defensive formation around Earth. Lumina defense platforms activated, their energy shields shimmering into existence. Uma, activate the energy buoys, Roger ordered. Across the solar system, a network of newly created energy buoys sprang to life, designed to slow the Void Hunters' advance. As the two forces drew closer, Roger could feel the weight of the moment. The fate of not just Earth, but potentially the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. Power up the main cannon, Roger said, his eyes fixed on the approaching swarm of Void Hunters. The massive weapon began to charge, ready to emit the specific energy frequencies that might be their only hope against this otherworldly threat. As the first Void Hunter entities entered weapons range, Roger took a deep breath. This was it. The moment that would define not just his life, but the future of all sentient life in the galaxy. Fire, he commanded, his voice ringing out across the bridge. Bridge of the Worldbreaker. The massive cannon, now humming with the combined power of Lumina and precursor technology, sent vibrations through the deck plates beneath Roger's feet. Target locked, the weapons officer announced, his voice tight with anticipation. Roger's eyes narrowed as he watched the swarm of Void Hunters approach on the main view screen. The entities appeared as dark, writhing masses against the backdrop of stars, their very presence seeming to distort the fabric of space around them. Fire, Roger commanded, his voice steady despite the tension that gripped everyone on the bridge. The Worldbreaker shuddered as the reconfigured main cannon discharged. A brilliant beam of energy, pulsing with complex frequencies, lanced out across the void. It struck the leading edge of the Void Hunter swarm with devastating effect. The result was immediate and visually striking. Where the beam intersected with the Void Hunters, their dark, light-absorbing forms began to waver and distort. Several entities at the forefront of the swarm simply disintegrated, their essence scattered to the cosmic winds. Others recoiled, their fluid forms rippling as if in pain. A cheer went up from the crew, but Roger remained focused. He knew this was only the beginning. Uma, what's the damage assessment? He asked through his neural link. Uma's voice filled his mind, tinged with both hope and caution. The weapon is effective, Roger. We've destroyed approximately 15% of the frontline entities. However, the Void Hunters are already adapting their formation to minimize exposure. Roger nodded grimly. He had expected as much. Captain Krell, status report. He called out over the fleet-wide channel. The gruff voice of the Zeraxian commander crackled through the speakers. We're engaging the flanks, Campbell. Our weapons aren't doing much damage, but we're keeping them busy. As Krell spoke, Roger watched the tactical display. The mixed fleet of Zeraxian and repurposed Comarian ships darted in and out of the Void Hunter formation, their energy weapons flashing. While they weren't inflicting significant damage, their harassment tactics were buying precious time for Earth's defense platforms to charge their own lumen-enhanced weapons. Suddenly, Uma's voice cut through Roger's thoughts, her tone urgent. Roger, I'm detecting a pattern in the Void Hunters' movements. They're not attacking randomly. They appear to be searching for something. Roger's blood ran cold as the implications set in. The Nexus key, he breathed. Exactly, Uma confirmed. We need to find it before they do. Without hesitation, Roger opened a secure channel to his most trusted officer. Lieutenant Harris, I have a critical mission for you. Marcus Harris's voice came through, crisp and ready. Standing by, sir. I need you to lead a search team for the Nexus key. Use the advanced luminous scanning technology. Start at the outer planets and work your way in. We're in a race against time. Understood. Sir, we're on it, Harris replied before signing off to assemble his team. As Roger turned his attention back to the battle, a familiar voice caught him off guard. Admiral Zorix, the captured Comarian leader, approached him on the bridge, flanked by armed guards. Human, Zorix said, his voice a mix of resignation and dedication. There's something you should know about this ship. Roger raised an eyebrow, motioning for Zorix to continue. The Worldbreaker has a secondary weapon system, the Comarian revealed. It's designed to create localized rifts in space-time. Roger's mind raced with the possibilities. He turned to the chief engineer. Can we modify that system using precursor principles? If we could create a rift to send these things back to their own dimension. The engineer's eyes widened with understanding. It's possible, but it'll take time. Make it happen, Roger ordered. It might be our best shot at ending this. As the engineering team set to work, Earth's orbital defenses came online. A network of satellites, hastily retrofitted with Lumina technology, began emitting a complex energy field. The effect on the Void Hunters was immediate. Their synchronized movements became erratic, their formations breaking apart as the disruptive energy interfered with their collective behavior. Roger allowed himself a small smile. It was working, but his relief was short-lived. Before his eyes, the Void Hunters began to change. Smaller entities merged, forming larger, more resilient structures. These new, amalgamated forms pushed forward with renewed vigor, shrugging off attacks that had been effective mere moments ago. Uma, Roger called out, his voice tense. We need options. They're adapting faster than we can counter. There was a brief pause before Uma responded, her voice tinged with excitement. Roger, the Guardian AI and I have found something. The merging process leaves them vulnerable for a split second. If we can time our attacks just right. Roger didn't need to hear more. He opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, this is Commander Campbell. Prepare for a coordinated strike. Fire on my mark, targeting the merging points of the Void Hunters. As the coalition forces readied themselves, Roger watched the tactical display intently. The Void Hunters continued to combine, forming ever larger entities. He waited, his hand hovering over the command interface, searching for the perfect moment. Now! Roger shouted, bringing his hand down. The space around Earth lit up as every ship and defense platform fired in unison. The precisely targeted energy pulses struck the Void Hunters at their most vulnerable points. The effect was devastating. Several of the massive, merged entities destabilized, breaking apart into their constituent forms. But even as they celebrated this victory, Roger knew it was temporary. The Void Hunters were learning, adapting with each passing moment. They needed to end this quickly. As if in answer to his thoughts, Lieutenant Harris's voice came through the comm channel. "Commander, we've detected an anomalous energy signature in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. It matches the theoretical profile of the Nexus Key." Roger's heart raced. This was it, their chance to turn the tide. But reaching the key meant navigating through the dense field of asteroids and Void Hunters. It was a near impossible task. He made his decision in an instant. "Captain Krell," he called out, "I need you to lead the majority of our fleet in a diversionary attack. Draw their attention away from the asteroid belt." "Consider it done," Krell responded, his voice filled with unyielding commitment. Roger turned to his executive officer. "Prepare a small, fast strike team. We're going after the Nexus Key ourselves." As the crew scrambled to carry out his orders, Roger felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. The fate of Earth, of the entire galaxy, rested on what happened in the next few hours. He was about to head for the hangar when Uma's voice stopped him cold. "Roger, wait. There's something you need to know about the Nexus Key." The urgency in her tone made him pause. "What is it, Uma?" "The precursor database. It contains a warning. Using the Nexus Key could destabilize the fabric of reality itself. We might save Earth, but at the cost of the entire galaxy." Roger felt the blood drain from his face as the implications sank in. They were damned if they did, damned if they didn't. But there was no time to ponder the cosmic implications of their actions. The Void Hunters were pressing in, and the key was their only hope. "We'll cross that bridge when we come to it," Roger said, his voice firm. "Right now, we need to secure that key before the Void Hunters do." With that, he strode towards the hangar, his mind racing with plans and contingencies. As he boarded the sleek, advanced ship that would carry his strike team, Roger could feel the weight of history pressing down upon him. Whatever happened next would determine the fate of not just humanity, but all sentient life in the galaxy. The hangar bay doors slid open, revealing the chaos of the battle beyond. Roger took a deep breath, his hands steady on the controls. With a burst of energy, his ship shot forward, leading the strike team into the maelstrom of combat. Their destination, the asteroid belt and the Nexus Key that waited within. The most important mission in human history had begun. As Roger's ship accelerated away from the world breaker, he felt a surge of adrenaline course through his veins. The strike team followed close behind, their engines burning bright against the backdrop of space. The asteroid belt loomed ahead, a treacherous field of rock and ice. Roger's hands tightened on the controls as he guided the ship into the chaotic maze. Massive boulders tumbled past, some as large as small moons. The team's sensors pinged constantly, alerting them to incoming debris and potential collisions. "Lieutenant Harris, any sign of the key?" Roger asked, his eyes never leaving the view screen. "Negative, sir," Harris replied, his voice tense. "But we're picking up some unusual energy readings deeper in the belt." Suddenly, a series of dark shapes materialized among the asteroids. Void Hunter scout units, their fluid forms rippling as they moved with unnatural speed and precision. "Evasive maneuvers," Roger barked, throwing his ship into a sharp dive. The rest of the strike team scattered, narrowly avoiding the first barrage of energy bolts from the Void Hunters. Roger's mind raced as he weaved through the asteroid field, using the space debris as cover. The Void Hunters pursued relentlessly, their attacks becoming more coordinated with each passing moment. "Sir," Harris called out, "I've got a fix on the key's location. It's embedded in a large asteroid about 2 kilometers ahead." As they approached, Roger's eyes widened. The asteroid was shifting, its surface rippling like liquid metal. In a matter of seconds, it transformed into a sleek, otherworldly structure, a precursor outpost that had lain dormant for millennia. "All ships form up," Roger commanded. "We're going in." But before they could reach the outpost, its defense systems roared to life. Ancient energy turrets emerged from hidden compartments, unleashing a storm of plasma bolts at the approaching strike team. "Scatter," Roger ordered, pulling his ship into a tight roll. The team split apart, each vessel dancing through the barrage of energy fire. "Commander," a voice crackled over the comm. It was Sarah Reeves, the team's Xenotech expert. "I've identified a weak point in their defense grid. If we can hit it with a concentrated burst, we might be able to shut down the entire system." Roger's eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display. "I see it. Cover me." He pushed his ship to its limits, diving towards a specific point on the outpost surface. The defense turrets tracked his approach, their fire intensifying. Roger's hands flew over the controls, making minute adjustments to avoid the incoming plasma bolts. At the last possible moment, he fired. A brilliant beam of energy lanced out from his ship, striking the outpost's weak point with pinpoint accuracy. The effect was immediate. The defense turret sputtered and went dark, leaving the outpost vulnerable. "Good work, team," Roger said, allowing himself a brief moment of relief. "Prepare to dock." But their reprieve was short-lived. The Void Hunter scouts that had been pursuing them launched a coordinated attack, their dark forms converging on the strike team's position. Roger made a split-second decision. "Harris, Reeves, you're with me. The rest of you, hold off those Void Hunters. We're going in to secure the key." As half the team engaged the extra-dimensional entities in a frantic dogfight, Roger guided his ship towards the outpost's main entrance. The docking procedure was tense, with the sounds of battle echoing through the hull. The airlock cycled, and Roger led his small team into the ancient structure. The interior was a maze of corridors filled with dormant precursor technology. Their Lumina-enhanced equipment hummed softly, interfacing with the alien systems and slowly unraveling the outpost secrets. As they delved deeper, holographic displays flickered to life around them. Roger paused, studying the images. They showed scenes of an ancient conflict, of beings that could only be the precursors facing off against a familiar, dark force. "The Void Hunters," Harris breathed. "They've been here before." Roger nodded grimly. "And now we know why the precursors created the Nexus key. Come on, we're running out of time." They pressed on, the weight of history and the fate of Earth heavy on their shoulders. The corridors seemed to stretch endlessly, each turn revealing new wonders and terrors of the ancient past. Suddenly, their comm units crackled to life. "Roger," it was Uma's voice, urgent and strained. "The situation at Earth has deteriorated. The Void Hunters have launched an all-out assault. Our defenses are failing." Roger's teeth clenched. "Understood. We're close to the key, Uma. Just hold on a little longer." As if in response to his words, the corridor ahead opened up into a vast chamber. And there, suspended in a field of shimmering energy, was the Nexus key. Its form was hard to comprehend, shifting and changing even as they watched. But they weren't alone. A group of Void Hunter entities materialized in the chamber, their dark forms rippling with otherworldly energy. Roger and his team raised their weapons, prepared for a final, desperate battle. Then, something unexpected happened. Instead of attacking, the Void Hunters began to emit complex patterns of energy. The air itself seemed to vibrate with meaning. "They're trying to communicate," Reeves said, her voice filled with wonder and apprehension. Before Roger could respond, a familiar figure materialized in the chamber. Uma, her form shimmering with Lumina energy, stood between the humans and the Void Hunters. "Roger," she said, her voice echoing strangely in the ancient chamber. We need to listen. There's more to this than we realized. As the energy patterns from the Void Hunters intensified, Roger found himself at a crossroads. The Nexus key pulsed with power, offering a potential end to the conflict. But the aliens' attempt at communication hinted at depths to the situation they had yet to understand. With Earth's fate hanging in the balance, Roger knew the next few moments would shape the course of galactic history. He took a deep breath, his mind racing as he prepared to make a decision that would echo across dimensions. The fate of not just humanity, but all sentient life in the galaxy. Roger locked eyes with Uma, her holographic form shimmering with an otherworldly glow. In that moment, a silent understanding passed between them. They would listen. "Stand down," Roger ordered his team, lowering his weapon. The tension in the chamber remained palpable as the humans and Void Hunters faced each other, separated by millennia of misunderstanding and conflict. Uma stepped forward, her form pulsing with Lumina energy. She raised her hands, palms out, towards the Void Hunters. The air crackled with power as she began to manipulate the energy patterns around her, creating a complex web of light and sound. "I'm attempting to establish a rudimentary translation matrix," she explained, her voice strained with concentration. "If I can align our communication frequencies with their energy patterns." The chamber filled with a cacophony of buzzes, clicks, and otherworldly hums as Uma's improvised system came to life. The Void Hunters' energy patterns intensified, their dark forms rippling with increased activity. Suddenly, a voice emerged from the chaos, distorted and alien, but unmistakably communicative. "Survival. Home. Collapsing." Roger's eyes widened as the implications sank in. "They're not invaders," he breathed. "They're refugees." As Uma refined the translation matrix, the Void Hunters' message became clearer. They spoke of a catastrophic event in their home dimension, a collapse that threatened to erase their entire civilization. The Nexus key, they explained, was their last hope for survival. "We sought the key to stabilize the breach," the alien voice explained, "to save our people from oblivion." The revelation sent shockwaves through Roger's team. Lieutenant Harris lowered his weapon, his face a mask of confusion and dawning comprehension. Sarah Reeves, the Xenotech expert, stepped closer to the Void Hunters, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. But even as this groundbreaking communication unfolded, reality intruded with brutal urgency. Roger's comm unit crackled to life. Captain Krell's voice strained and filled with static. "Commander, we can't hold them much longer. The world breaker systems are failing, and Earth's defense grid is collapsing. We need that key now." Roger's mind raced, the weight of two civilizations pressing down on him. He looked at the Nexus key, still suspended in its energy field, then back at the Void Hunters. An idea began to form. Audacious, perhaps impossible, but with the potential to save both worlds. What if we could use the key differently? He proposed, addressing both his team and the Void Hunters. Not to bring your entire civilization through, but to relocate a single uninhabited planet from our dimension to yours? Uma's holographic eyes widened as she grasped the implications. "It's possible," she said, her voice filled with excitement. "We need to identify a suitable planet and perform incredibly complex calculations, but—" "Do it," Roger commanded. "Work with the Guardian AI. Find us a planet." As Uma set to work, Roger turned to the Void Hunters. "Will this work for you? A new home, without endangering our worlds?" The alien entities conferred among themselves, their energy patterns swirling in complex arrangements. Finally, they responded. Acceptable. Cooperation. Necessary. With a newfound sense of purpose, Roger's team sprang into action. Sarah Reeves began interfacing with the precursor outpost systems, working alongside the Void Hunters to convert the asteroid base into a massive energy focusing array. Lieutenant Harris coordinated with the strike team outside, using their newfound knowledge of Void Hunter vulnerabilities to maintain a defensive perimeter around the outpost. The space around the asteroid lit up with energy discharges as human and alien technology worked in tandem to hold off the remaining hostile forces. Uma's voice cut through the controlled chaos. I found a suitable planet in a nearby star system. Uninhabited, Earth-like conditions. But Roger, the energy requirements for this transfer are astronomical. We'll be pushing the Nexus Key and this outpost to their absolute limits. Roger nodded grimly. We don't have a choice. Earth is running out of time. As if to punctuate his words, another transmission came through, this time from Earth's military command. They were preparing to deploy experimental weapons of mass destruction against the Void Hunters still attacking the planet. We need to hurry, Roger urged, his voice tight with tension. The modifications to the outpost progressed at a feverish pace. Human and Void Hunter worked side by side, their earlier enmity forgotten in the face of mutual destruction. The asteroid base hummed with power, conduits and relays glowing with hardly restrained energy. Just as they neared completion, a new threat emerged. The main Void Hunter force attacking Earth had detected the massive energy buildup. A significant portion of their fleet broke off, racing towards the asteroid belt. Roger made the call. Captain Krell, gather every ship we have left. I need you to delay that fleet. Buy us time to complete the transfer. Krell's response was immediate and unwavering. Understood, Commander. It's been an honor. As Krell's forces engaged in their desperate delaying action, Uma announced the completion of her calculations. Roger took a deep breath, locking eyes with the Void Hunter entities around him. Together, they began the activation sequence for the Nexus Key. The artifact pulsed with blinding light, reality itself seeming to warp around it. The targeted planet flickered in and out of existence on the holographic displays, caught between dimensions. Alarms blared throughout the outpost as systems overloaded. Conduits exploded in showers of sparks, and the very structure of the asteroid groaned under the strain. We're losing containment, Sarah Reeves shouted over the din. The energy levels are too high. Roger gritted his teeth, his hands flying over the control interfaces. Reroute power through the secondary systems. We need to hold it together just a little longer. As the Nexus Key's power reached its crescendo, the attacking Void Hunters suddenly halted their advance. The entities within the outpost broadcast a message to their kin, explaining the plan. Slowly, understanding dawned, and the hostile forces began to withdraw. With the immediate threat neutralized, Roger and his unlikely allies poured every ounce of their strength and knowledge into controlling the awesome power of the Nexus Key. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance as they fought to complete the planet transfer, knowing that the slightest miscalculation could lead to unimaginable catastrophe. The asteroid base shuddered, systems failing left and right as the Nexus Key's energy reached its peak. Roger's vision blurred, the strain of maintaining control pushing him to his limits. But he held on, guided by the combined will of human, AI, and Void Hunter alike. In that moment, as dimensions shifted and reality itself bent to their combined will, the line between ally and enemy, human and alien blurred. They were united in a single purpose: survival. Survival, a goal that transcended species and dimensions. The Nexus Key pulsed with blinding intensity, its power reaching a crescendo that threatened to tear reality apart. Roger's muscles strained as he fought to maintain control over the immense energies coursing through the precursor outpost. Uma's holographic form flickered and distorted, her voice barely audible over the cacophony of alarms and groaning metal. Energy levels critical, Sarah Reeves shouted, her fingers flying over the control interface. We're losing containment. The entire structure shuddered violently, sections of the asteroid breaking away and drifting into space. Roger gritted his teeth, pushing through the pain and exhaustion. He locked eyes with the nearest Void Hunter entity, its dark form rippling with otherworldly energy. In that moment, a silent understanding passed between them. They would see this through, together or not at all. Reroute all available power to the stabilization matrix. Roger commanded, his voice hoarse from shouting over the din. We're almost there. Lieutenant Harris worked alongside the Void Hunters, their earlier animosity forgotten as they fought to keep the outpost intact for just a few moments longer. The targeted planet flickered in and out of existence on the holographic displays, caught between dimensions. Suddenly, a blinding flash of light erupted from the Nexus key, forcing Roger to shield his eyes. When his vision cleared, he saw the holographic representation of the planet vanish completely. Transfer complete, Uma announced, her voice filled with a mixture of relief and disbelief. The planet has successfully relocated to the Void Hunter's home dimension. Before they could celebrate, a massive tremor rocked the outpost. Conduits exploded in showers of sparks, and entire sections of the structure began to collapse. We need to evacuate now, Roger shouted, already moving towards the exit. Everyone to the ships. The team sprinted through crumbling corridors, narrowly avoiding falling debris. Void Hunter entities phased through solid matter, guiding the humans to the safest routes. They reached the docking bay just as the floor began to give way beneath their feet. Roger ushered his team into their ship, watching as the cooperating Void Hunters dematerialized, presumably to their own vessels. The engines roared to life, and they shot out of the disintegrating asteroid base, joining a stream of escape pods and small craft. As they retreated to a safe distance, Roger watched through the view screen as the precursor outpost collapsed in on itself. The asteroid that had housed it fragmented, scattering debris across space in a glittering cloud. Uma, status report, Roger said, his breathing finally steadying. The AI's holographic form stabilized, her expression grave. The immediate crisis has been averted, but our actions have had unforeseen consequences. Long-range scans appeared on the main display, showing a series of anomalous energy readings throughout the solar system. Roger leaned forward, his brow furrowing as he studied the data. Are those rifts? He asked, a hint of dread in his voice. Uma nodded. The use of the Nexus key has created multiple unstable dimensional tiers. They pose a significant threat to space travel and planetary security. Before Roger could respond, a priority communication came through from Earth Command. He accepted the transmission, bracing himself for what was sure to be a complex debriefing. Admiral Chen's holographic form appeared, her expression a mixture of relief and concern. Commander, we're receiving reports that the Void Hunter forces have ceased their attack on Earth. Can you confirm? Roger nodded. Yes, Admiral. We were able to relocate an uninhabited planet to their home dimension, alleviating their immediate need for expansion. However, we've detected a new problem. He quickly briefed the Admiral on the situation with the rifts. As he spoke, new data streamed in from across the solar system. Reports of strange sightings and anomalous readings flooded the communications channels. Admiral Chen's expression hardened. We're assembling a scientific expedition to study and potentially close these rifts. Your new orders are to rendezvous with the team at the lunar base. Dr. Evelyn Marsh will be leading the operation. Understood, Admiral, Roger replied. We'll set course immediately. As they prepared to make the journey to the lunar base, Roger received an incoming transmission from a familiar source. Captain Krell's battered but still imposing Xeraxian warship appeared on the display. Commander, Krell's gravelly voice came through, tinged with exhaustion. My fleet detected strange energy readings from those rifts. They appear to be growing in size and intensity. Roger's mind raced with the implications. Thanks for the information, Captain. We're en route to rendezvous with a scientific team to address the situation. Any assistance your forces can provide would be appreciated. As they set course for the lunar base, Uma worked tirelessly with the Guardian AI, analyzing the data collected during the planetary transfer. Her holographic form pulsed with excitement as she made a breakthrough. "Roger, I've discovered something remarkable," she said. The Nexus Key's activation left a residual energy signature on the relocated planet. We might be able to use this to establish a stable communication link between dimensions. The possibilities of such a breakthrough were staggering, but Roger forced himself to focus on the immediate crisis. As they approached the lunar base, reports began flooding in from across the solar system. Outer colonies and research stations were reporting sightings of unknown objects emerging from the smaller rifts. Just as they prepared to dock, an urgent message came through from Earth Command. Admiral Chen's voice crackled with static, her tone urgent. "Commander, we're detecting a massive energy surge near Europa. It appears to be interfacing with one of the nearby rifts, causing rapid expansion. Your new orders are to investigate immediately." Roger acknowledged the order, already plotting a course to Jupiter's icy moon. As they approached Europa, their sensors picked up a fragmented distress signal from a research outpost on the surface. The garbled message mentioned an ancient machine awakening beneath the ice. The ship touched down on Europa's frigid surface, the team donning specialized environmental suits. As they stepped out onto the icy terrain, Roger couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to uncover something that would change the course of human history. They trekked across fields of towering ice spires and deep crevasses, following the energy readings toward their source. Pockets of anomalous activity surrounded them, areas where the laws of physics seemed to break down. Roger watched in amazement as small objects floated upwards, defying gravity, only to crash back down moments later. After what felt like hours of grueling progress, they reached the edge of a massive chasm that had opened up in Europa's surface. At the bottom, a pulsing blue light emanated from a partially exposed structure of clearly artificial origin. As Roger stared down into the abyss, his comm unit crackled to life. Admiral Chen's voice came through, filled with barely suppressed panic. "Commander, we have a situation. Multiple rifts across the solar system have begun expanding simultaneously. Unknown entities are emerging in greater numbers. Whatever you find down there, we need answers fast." Roger took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. He gestured to his team, and they began their descent into the chasm, the fate of the solar system hanging in the balance. Balance. Roger took a deep breath, steeling himself for the descent into the unknown depths of Europa's icy chasm. Just as he was about to give the order to proceed, his comm unit crackled to life with an urgent message from Earth Command. "Commander, this is Admiral Chun. We received critical information from Dr. Evelyn Marsh's expedition. Her team has made a breakthrough in understanding the nature of the dimensional rifts. This data may be crucial to your mission. Acknowledge and stand by for details." Roger exchanged glances with his team, the gravity of the situation evident in their expressions. He quickly weighed his options, knowing that time was of the essence. "Acknowledge, Admiral. Standing by," Roger responded, then turned to address his team. "Change of plans. We're splitting into two groups. Lieutenant Harris, take half the team back to the ship and establish a secure link with Dr. Marsh. We need that information ASAP." Harris nodded, immediately selecting team members and heading back towards their vessel. Roger continued, "The rest of you with me. We're going down there to investigate that light source and the structure it's coming from." As Harris's group departed, Roger's team began their descent into the chasm. They used specialized rappelling gear, designed to compensate for the increasing gravitational anomalies they encountered. The icy walls glowed an eerie blue, reflecting the pulsing light from below. "Watch your step," Roger warned as a team member narrowly avoided a patch of ice that seemed to defy gravity, floating upwards before crashing back down. These anomalies are getting stronger the deeper we go. The team pressed on, their breathing heavy in the confined space of their environmental suits. The cold was intense, even through their protective layers. As they neared the bottom, the pulsing blue light grew brighter, casting strange shadows that danced across the ice. Upon reaching the chasm floor, Roger and his team stood before an awe-inspiring sight. Partially embedded in the ice was a massive structure of clearly artificial origin. Its surface was covered in intricate patterns that pulsed with the same blue light they had seen from above. "Uma, are you seeing this?" Roger asked, activating his suit's external cameras. The AI's voice came through clearly in his helmet. "Affirmative, Commander. The structure appears to be of precursor origin. Its energy signature matches known precursor artifacts, but with some significant variations." As the team approached the structure, their instruments began to react wildly. Energy readings spiked, and their gravity compensators struggled to keep up with the fluctuations. "It seems to be drawing energy from the nearby rift," one of the science officers noted, studying her readings, "and simultaneously causing it to expand." Roger stepped closer, examining the pulsing patterns on the device's surface. They seemed familiar somehow, reminding him of the communication attempts made by the Void Hunters during their earlier encounter. Before he could ponder this further, his comm unit chirped. It was Lieutenant Harris, reporting in from the ship. "Commander, we've established contact with Dr. Marsh." "You need to hear this," Harris said, his voice tight with urgency. Dr. Marsh's voice came through Nex, her words rapid and filled with a mixture of excitement and concern. "Commander, the rifts aren't just tears in space-time. They're conduits for a form of exotic matter that's altering the fundamental physical properties of our universe. This explains the gravitational anomalies you're experiencing, and it's likely responsible for awakening dormant precursor technology." Roger's mind raced with the implications. "What are the long-term consequences if we can't close these rifts, Doctor?" "Catastrophic," Marsh replied grimly. "If left unchecked, the influx of exotic matter could lead to irreversible changes in the laws of physics governing our reality. We've developed specifications for a device that could potentially stabilize and close the rifts, but it requires an enormous amount of energy and a rare isotope found only in the cores of gas giants." As Roger processed this information, Uma's voice cut in. "Commander, I've analyzed the energy output of the precursor device. Its fluctuations match a pattern similar to the Void Hunter's communication attempts. This device may be a remnant of an ancient precursor project to establish interdimensional contact." Roger made a quick decision. "We need to try and deactivate this device. It might slow the expansion of the nearby rift." He directed his team to begin interfacing with the ancient technology using their most advanced decryption and override protocols. Progress was slow, the alien systems resisting their efforts at every turn. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the chasm. The ice around them began to shift and groan ominously. "We've triggered some kind of failsafe," one of the team members shouted. The precursor device pulsed brightly, releasing a massive burst of energy. The surrounding ice fractured, large chunks breaking free and plummeting towards them. "Abort! Everyone out now!" Roger commanded, already scrambling towards their rappelling lines. The team's ascent was frantic, dodging falling ice and debris as they climbed. The chasm was collapsing around them, the very structure of Europa's icy shell seeming to disintegrate. As they neared the surface, Roger's comm crackled to life once more. It was Lieutenant Harris, his voice filled with alarm. "Commander, we're detecting a massive energy surge building within the precursor device. At its current rate, it could cause the rift to expand exponentially." We're talking potential engulfment of all Europa, maybe even threatening the entire Jovian system. Roger's mind raced, weighing their options in a split second. He knew what he had to do. Everyone, continue to the surface and get to the ship, he ordered his team. I'm going back down. Ignoring the protests of his team, Roger began his descent back into the chaos below. The blue light had intensified, now a blinding beacon in the collapsing chasm. As he rappelled down, reality itself seemed to warp around him, strange visions flickering in and out of existence as the boundaries between dimensions blurred. Reaching the precursor device once more, Roger interfaced directly with the ancient machine, pushing his understanding of precursor and Lumina technology to its limits. The energy surge was reaching critical levels, the rift expanding at an alarming rate. In an audacious attempt, Roger managed to reroute the device's energy flow, causing it to implode rather than explode. The implosion created a localized gravitational singularity that began to draw in ice, debris, and even the expanded portions of the rift itself. Trapped by the growing singularity, Roger activated his emergency teleportation device, an experimental piece of technology based on Lumina principles. As the singularity reached critical mass, Roger disappeared in a flash of energy, his fate unknown. The implosion of the precursor device sent a shockwave through the Jovian system. Lieutenant Harris and the rest of the team, safely aboard their ship, watched in awe as the rift on Europa closed completely, leaving behind a massive, newly formed crater on the moon's surface. As the dust settled, Harris took stock of their situation. Commander Roger was missing, his fate uncertain. The immediate threat to Europa had been neutralized, but the problem of expanding rifts across the solar system remained. Harris assumed temporary command, his voice steady as he addressed the team. Set a course for Earth. We need to rendezvous with Dr. Marsh's expedition and share what we've learned here. It may be our best hope for addressing the remaining rifts. As their ship broke Europa's orbit, the team remained vigilant. They carried with them the data from their harrowing experience, along with the weight of their missing commander and the knowledge that unknown threats might still emerge from the rifts scattered throughout the solar system. The Jovian system receded behind them, Jupiter's massive form a reminder of the scale of their challenge. Ahead lay Earth, and with it, the next phase of their mission to save not just their solar system, but the very fabric of their reality. Reality. Earth loomed ahead, a blue marble suspended in the void, its familiar continents obscured by swirling cloud patterns. As their ship entered Earth's atmosphere, Lieutenant Harris steeled himself for the challenging task ahead. The loss of Commander Roger took a toll on the entire team, but there was no time for mourning. The fate of the solar system hung in the balance. They touched down at a heavily guarded military facility, where Dr. Evelyn Marsh and her team awaited their arrival. The scientist's face was drawn with fatigue, her eyes betraying the gravity of the situation. "Lieutenant Harris," she greeted them as they disembarked. "I wish we were meeting under better circumstances. Please follow me. We have much to discuss." Dr. Marsh led them to a secure briefing room, its walls lined with holographic displays showing real-time data from across the solar system. The images were alarming, expanding rifts, gravitational anomalies, and unidentified objects emerging from the tears in space-time. "As you can see," Dr. Marsh began, gesturing to the displays, "the situation has escalated dramatically since your mission to Europa. The rifts are expanding at an exponential rate, causing widespread disruptions to our communication networks and space travel capabilities." Harris nodded grimly. "We experienced some of those disruptions on our return journey. What's our next move, Doctor?" Dr. Marsh activated a 3D hologram in the center of the room. It showed a complex network of energy patterns spreading across the solar system. "We've discovered that the exotic matter leaking through the rifts is accumulating in specific locations," she explained. "We're calling them dimensional nexus points. These nexus points are acting as amplifiers for the rifts, accelerating their growth, and increasing the influx of exotic matter. Uma, now serving as Chief Science Officer, studied the hologram intently. Fascinating. The energy patterns bear a striking resemblance to the precursor device we encountered on Europa. Dr. Marsh nodded. Exactly. We believe that by combining precursor, Lumina, and Earth technologies, we can develop a device capable of neutralizing these nexus points and potentially closing the rifts. As the team delved into the technical details of Dr. Marsh's plan, an urgent message flashed across one of the displays. Harris's attention snapped to it immediately. Doctor, what's this about unidentified objects in the asteroid belt? Dr. Marsh's expression darkened. That's our other pressing concern. The largest rift in the solar system has formed in the asteroid belt, and we're detecting increasing numbers of unidentified objects emerging from it. Based on preliminary scans, we believe they may be biomechanical in nature. The implications of this revelation sent a chill through the room. Harris exchanged glances with his team, seeing his own concern mirrored in their eyes. Are we looking at a potential invasion? He asked, his voice low. We can't rule it out, Dr. Marsh replied. Earth's military leaders are forming a joint task force to investigate and engage if necessary. They requested your team's participation, given your experience with the rifts and the entities emerging from them. Harris nodded, his mind already racing with tactical considerations. We'll need every advantage we can get. What's the status of the device you mentioned? Dr. Marsh led them to an adjacent laboratory, where a team of engineers and scientists were working feverishly on a complex apparatus. At its core was a swirling vortex of energy, contained within a series of interlocking fields. This is our prototype, Dr. Marsh explained. It combines Lumina energy focusing technology with precursor spatial manipulation algorithms. In theory, it should be able to generate a controlled implosion similar to what occurred on Europa, collapsing the dimensional nexus points and sealing the associated rifts. Uma approached the device, her sensors scanning its intricate components. Impressive work, Doctor. However, I'm detecting a significant energy deficit. This device will require far more power than conventional Earth technology can provide. Dr. Marsh nodded grimly. You're right. We've determined that the only viable power source within our reach is a Comarian antimatter reactor, salvaged from the World Breaker. Harris's eyes widened. The World Breaker? Is it safe to use that technology? Not entirely, Dr. Marsh admitted. Interfacing our systems with the Comarian reactor poses significant risks. But given the stakes, we don't have much choice. As the team discussed the logistics of integrating the Comarian reactor, an alarm blared through the facility. Dr. Marsh rushed to a nearby console, her fingers flying over the controls. We're detecting a massive energy signature approaching the solar system, she announced, her voice tense. Analysis suggests it's a Void Hunter mothership, far larger than any we've encountered before. It's on a direct course for the rift in the asteroid belt. Harris felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders. With Roger gone, it fell to him to lead the team through this crisis. How long do we have? He asked. At its current speed, the mothership will reach the asteroid belt in approximately 72 hours, Dr. Marsh replied. Harris turned to his team, his expression resolute. All right, people, we have our mission. We need to get that prototype operational and deploy to the asteroid belt before that mothership arrives. Uma, work with Dr. Marsh's team to integrate the Comarian reactor. The rest of you, prepare our ship for immediate departure. As the team sprang into action, Uma's voice cut through the commotion. Lieutenant, I've made a discovery while analyzing the data from Commander Rogers' last transmission on Europa. Harris paused, turning to the AI. What is it, Uma? I've detected a faint energy signature matching Rogers' personal Lumina-enhanced equipment, Uma reported. The signature appears to be emanating from within the largest rift in the asteroid belt. A spark of hope ignited in Harris's chest. "Are you saying Roger might be alive?" "It's a possibility," Uma confirmed, "though we can't be certain of his condition or the exact nature of his current situation." Harris absorbed this information, his mind racing with the implications. Their mission had just become even more critical. "All right, let's move," he ordered. "We have a rift to close, a potential invasion to stop, and a commander to rescue. Let's make it happen." As the team redoubled their efforts, the prototype device hummed with increasing power. The salvaged Comarian reactor pulsed with ominous energy, a stark reminder of the danger and uncertainty that lay ahead. Within hours, the Joint Task Force was assembled. Harris's team, their ship now equipped with the prototype device, took their place alongside Captain Krell's Zeraxian vessels and Earth's most advanced warships. As they broke orbit, Harris gazed out at the star-studded expanse before them. Somewhere out there, beyond the rift in the asteroid belt, Roger might be waiting for rescue. And behind them, closing in fast, was a Void Hunter mothership of unprecedented size and power. The fate of the solar system hung in the balance as they raced towards their destination, the prototype device their only hope of averting catastrophe. As they entered deep space, Harris couldn't shake the feeling that they were hurtling towards a confrontation that would change the course of human history forever. As they entered deep space, the Joint Task Force's ships glided silently through the void, their engines pulsing with barely held back power. Lieutenant Harris stood on the bridge of the flagship, his eyes fixed on the holographic display showing their approach to the massive rift in the asteroid belt. "All ships, take up defensive positions," Harris ordered, his voice steady despite the tension that gripped the crew. "Prepare the prototype device for deployment." The fleet spread out in a carefully choreographed formation, Earth's most advanced warships flanked by Captain Krell's sleek Zeraxian vessels. In the center of the formation, protected by layers of energy shields, the ship carrying the prototype device maneuvered into position. Uma's voice came through the comm system, her tone clinical but tinged with urgency. "Lieutenant, I completed the final calibrations on the device. The Comarian antimatter reactor is stable, but I detect fluctuations in its output. We must proceed with caution." Harris nodded grimly. "Understood, Uma. Keep monitoring the reactor. We can't afford any surprises." As they approached the rift, the vastness of space seemed to warp and twist. The tear in reality loomed before them, a jagged wound in the fabric of space-time that pulsed with otherworldly energy. Streams of exotic matter erupted from its surface, casting an eerie, shifting light across the asteroid field. Captain Krell's gravelly voice crackled over the comms. "Zeraxian ships are in position, Lieutenant. Our sensors are picking up increasing activity within the rift." No sooner had Krell spoken than a swarm of biomechanical entities burst forth from the rift. They moved with unnatural speed, their forms a bizarre fusion of organic tissue and metallic components. "All ships, engage defensive protocols," Harris commanded. "Protect the prototype at all costs." The space around the rift erupted into chaos. Earth ships and Zeraxian vessels unleashed a barrage of weapons fire, their energy beams cutting through the void to strike the encroaching entities. The biomechanical creatures retaliated, latching onto ships with tendrils of energy and metal, attempting to breach their hulls. In the midst of the battle, Dr. Marsh's voice cut through the din. "Lieutenant, we've identified a pattern in the rift's energy fluctuations. There's a window of opportunity approaching for maximum effectiveness. You need to deploy the prototype in the next 15 minutes." Harris turned to his tactical officer. "Get me a status report on the prototype. Are we ready for deployment?" "Yes, sir," the officer replied. "The engineering team is moving it into position now." On the display, Harris watched as a small team of engineers, protected by shimmering energy shields, maneuvered the prototype device towards the rift's event horizon. The device itself was a marvel of integrated technology, Its sleek form belied the complex interplay of precursor, lumina, and Earth systems within. Uma's voice cut through Harris's concentration. "Lieutenant, I've detected a signal matching Commander Rogers' personal equipment. It's faint, but it's definitely coming from just beyond the rift's threshold." Harris's heart raced at the news. "Can we get a fix on his exact location?" "Negative," Uma replied. "The signal is too weak and the dimensional interference is too strong. But this confirms he may still be alive." The implications of this discovery weren't lost on Harris. Closing the rift could potentially trap Roger in the other dimension, but leaving it open posed an existential threat to the entire solar system. "We proceed as planned," Harris declared, pushing aside his personal concerns. "Uma, begin the activation sequence for the prototype." As Uma initiated the startup procedure, the rift reacted violently. Massive surges of exotic matter erupted from its surface, threatening to engulf the prototype before it could be activated. "Krell, we need cover," Harris shouted into the comms. The Zeraxian ships responded immediately, moving to intercept the energy bursts. Their advanced shielding systems flared brilliantly as they absorbed and deflected the dangerous matter, buying precious time for the prototype to power up. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. "Sir, long-range sensors are picking up a massive object entering the solar system," the sensor officer reported. "It's the Void Hunter mothership, and it's heading straight for us." Harris watched in awe and terror as the gargantuan vessel appeared on the interface. It dwarfed even the largest ships in their fleet, its hull a nightmarish landscape of alien geometries and pulsing energy conduits. "Time to intercept," Harris asked, his voice tense. "At its current speed, less than 30 minutes, the officer replied. Harris made a split-second decision. "We can't wait. Uma, activate the prototype now." As Uma channeled the power of the Chimerian reactor into the device's core, the space around the rift began to warp and twist. The prototype generated a swirling vortex of energy, its gravitational pull intensifying with each passing second. The biomechanical entities caught in the vortex's influence were drawn back towards the rift, their metallic forms contorting as they were pulled into the collapsing tier. Asteroids and debris from the surrounding field began to spiral inward, adding to the chaotic maelstrom of energy and matter. Just as the prototype reached critical mass, the Void Hunter mothership arrived. Its massive form caused gravitational distortions that sent asteroids hurtling towards the task force. Earth and Zeraxian ships alike were forced into evasive maneuvers, their pilots pushing their vessels to the limit to avoid collision. The mothership fired a searing beam of energy directly at the prototype device. Captain Krell's flagship, without hesitation, moved to intercept. The Zeraxian vessel's shields flared brilliantly as they absorbed the full force of the attack, buying crucial seconds for the prototype to complete its work. In that moment of sacrifice, a burst of energy erupted from the center of the collapsing rift. A human figure, encased in a makeshift environmental suit, was propelled through the tear. It was Roger Campbell, battered but alive, clutching what appeared to be a cobbled-together precursor device. "This is Sierra Team," Harris shouted into the comms. "Commander Roger is clear of the rift. All ships, prepare for the final implosion." As an Earth ship moved to retrieve Roger, the prototype device reached its zenith. The rift in the asteroid belt contracted rapidly, pulling in the surrounding exotic matter and the last of the biomechanical entities. The Void Hunter mothership, caught on the edge of the implosion field, struggled against the immense gravitational force. With a final, blinding flash of energy, the rift sealed shut. A massive shockwave radiated outward, forcing all ships in the vicinity to activate emergency shields. The Void Hunter mothership, its systems overloaded by the energy surge, began to drift powerlessly in space. As the light faded and the sensors cleared, Harris took in the scene before him. The rift was gone, leaving behind a newly reshaped section of the asteroid belt. The task force had survived, though not without damage. And there, being brought aboard the flagship, was the impossible figure of Commander Roger Campbell. Harris allowed himself a moment of relief before turning to his communications officer. "Contact Earth. Tell them we've sealed the rift and recovered Commander Campbell. And inform them." He paused, his gaze shifting to the dormant form of the Void Hunter mothership. "Tell them we have a new objective." As the task force regrouped and began securing the disabled alien vessel, Harris couldn't shake the feeling that this victory, hard-won as it was, marked only the beginning of a much larger conflict. With Roger's return and the mysteries of the Void Hunter technology now within their grasp, the true nature of the threat they faced was only just beginning to reveal itself. As the task force regrouped and began securing the disabled Void Hunter mothership, Harris turned his attention to the immediate challenges at hand. The victory over the rift had come at a cost, and now they faced the daunting task of returning to Earth with their hard-won prize. "Uma, what's the status on Commander Campbell?" Harris asked, his voice betraying a mix of concern and relief. "Commander Campbell is stable but unconscious," Uma reported. "He's been moved to the medical bay for observation and treatment. The medical staff reports some unusual physiological changes." Harris frowned. "Unusual how?" "His cellular structure shows signs of alteration due to exposure to exotic matter," Uma explained. "The full extent of these changes is still unknown." Before Harris could inquire further, a priority transmission from Earth cut through the comm channels. Admiral Zhao's holographic image materialized on the bridge, her face etched with concern. "Lieutenant Harris, we have a situation," she began without preamble. "Multiple rifts have reopened across the globe. The prototype device you used was a one-time solution," Harris finished, his heart sinking. "We're on our way back, Admiral. What's the current status?" "Critical," Zhao replied grimly. "Major cities are implementing emergency protocols. We need a solution, and we need it fast." Harris's mind raced. The prototype. If we can reverse engineer it, create smaller versions. "My thoughts exactly," Zhao nodded. "I'm assembling a team of our top scientists. They'll be ready to work with you as soon as you're in orbit." As the fleet began its journey back to Earth, Harris coordinated with Uma to start the preliminary analysis of the prototype device. The AI's processing power would be crucial in breaking down the complex interplay of technologies that made the device work. Days passed in a flurry of activity. As they approached Earth orbit, the true scale of the crisis became apparent. Holographic displays showed the locations of the new rifts, pulsing angry red against the blue of Earth's surface. "Sir," a junior officer called out, "we're receiving reports of biomechanical entities emerging from the rifts. Earth's forces are engaged but struggling to contain them." Harris pursed his lips. "Get me a secure line to Captain Krell. We'll need his expertise with the Void Hunter tech." As the fleet entered orbit, a small craft docked with their ship. Dr. Marsh, looking haggard but determined, strode onto the bridge. "Lieutenant," she greeted Harris, "I hear we have a Void Hunter mothership to study." Harris nodded, and not a moment too soon. "We need solutions, Doctor. Fast." In the days that followed, Earth became a hive of frantic activity. Uma worked tirelessly with the science team, her quantum processors pushed to their limits as they sought to unravel the secrets of the prototype device. In the medical bay, Roger Campbell stirred to consciousness, his eyes snapping open with an intensity that startled the attending nurse. "Lieutenant Harris," Roger's voice crackled over the intercom. "We need to talk. Now." Harris arrived to find Roger sitting up, his skin pale but his eyes alert. "Commander, you should be resting." Roger shook his head. "No time. The rifts, the entities, I understand them now. They're not what we thought." As Roger shared his insights about the biomechanical probes, Harris felt a glimmer of hope. This could change everything. Meanwhile, in a high-security hangar, Captain Krell supervised the delicate process of studying the Void Hunter mothership. His gravelly voice echoed through the cavernous space as he directed a team of human and Zeraxian engineers. "Careful with those energy conduits," he warned. "One wrong move and we'll be atomized faster than you can blink." The breakthrough came unexpectedly. Uma's holographic form flickered into existence beside Harris, her expression as close to excitement as an AI could manage. "Lieutenant, we've done it," she announced. "We can recreate the prototype, but there's a problem. We need a power source as strong as the Chimerian reactor." Harris's mind immediately went to the Void Hunter mothership. What about their power core? Uma's eyes gleamed. "Precisely my thinking. It's risky, but it might be our only option." As Uma's team began the precarious task of extracting the alien power core, Harris received word from the surface. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. Major cities were under siege, their defenses crumbling under the relentless assault of the biomechanical probes. In a secure facility beneath the Pentagon, Roger Campbell worked feverishly with Dr. Marsh, analyzing capture probes and developing new containment strategies. His experiences beyond the rift had given him an almost intuitive understanding of the exotic matter and its properties. "If we can establish communication," Roger mused, his fingers flying over a holographic interface, "we might be able to negotiate, find a peaceful solution." As Earth teetered on the brink of chaos, a new alert blared through the command center. Long-range sensors had detected multiple energy signatures entering the solar system, signatures that matched the Void Hunter vessels. Harris stared at the incoming data, his mind racing. They were out of time. Earth's fate now hinged on their ability to deploy the new prototype devices before the Void Hunters arrived in force. "Uma," he called out, his voice steady despite the tension coursing through him. "What's the status on the power core integration?" "Final calibrations are underway, Lieutenant," Uma replied. "We'll be ready for the first test in approximately 6 hours." Harris nodded grimly. 6 hours. He could only hope it would be enough. Enough time. As Uma's team raced against the clock to integrate the Void Hunter power core, Earth's defenses were put to the ultimate test. Rifts continued to expand across the globe, their ethereal glow a stark contrast to the chaos they unleashed. Biomechanical probes poured through these dimensional tiers, their alien forms a terrifying sight as they advanced on populated areas. Lieutenant Harris stood before a massive holographic display in the newly established command center, his face illuminated by the flickering red dots representing active incursions. He barked orders into his comm unit, coordinating global defense efforts with a calm efficiency that belied the gravity of the situation. "Deploy the 7th Fleet to the Pacific Rift Cluster," he commanded, "and get me a status update on the European defense line." As Harris orchestrated Earth's response, Roger Campbell was suiting up for battle. Despite protests from the medical staff, he insisted on joining the front lines. His unique understanding of the alien threat made him an invaluable asset in the field. "I know these things," Roger explained to Dr. Marsh as she helped him into a cutting-edge combat suit. "I've seen how they think, how they move. We need every advantage we can get." Dr. Marsh nodded, her expression a mix of concern and admiration. "Just be careful out there, Commander. We need you alive to help us make sense of all this." Roger led his strike team to a hotspot in downtown Los Angeles, where a cluster of probes had breached the city's defenses. The streets were a war zone, littered with debris and the twisted metal of destroyed vehicles. As they approached the aliens' position, Roger held up a hand, signaling his team to halt. "Watch their movements," he instructed, his voice low and intense. "They coordinate like a hive mind, but each unit has a degree of autonomy. Target the lead units to disrupt their formation." The team moved with precision, their weapons, a mix of conventional firearms and hastily adapted alien tech, cutting through the biomechanical entities with surprising effectiveness. Roger's insights proved invaluable, allowing the strike team to anticipate and counter the probe's tactics. In orbit, Captain Krell's Zeraxian ships formed a formidable defensive line alongside Earth's remaining spacecraft. The combined fleet faced its first true test as a group of smaller Void Hunter vessels attempted to push through to the planet. Terran vessels, form up on our flanks, Krell's gravelly voice commanded over the comms. We'll funnel them into a kill zone. The space battle that ensued was a dazzling display of advanced weaponry and tactics. Earth's ships, guided by Krell's experience, executed complex maneuvers that would have been impossible just weeks ago. The Void Hunter vessels, caught off guard by the unexpected level of coordination, were forced into retreat. Back on the ground, Uma's team achieved a critical breakthrough. In a secure facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, they successfully adapted the Void Hunter power core to a prototype of a smaller, more mobile rift-closing device. "We're ready for the first field test," Uma announced, her holographic form flickering with an almost palpable excitement. The test site was chosen, a rift that had opened in the vast expanse of the Siberian tundra. A small team, led by Dr. Marsh, deployed the device under heavy guard. As they activated the prototype, the air crackled with energy. The rift, a tear in the very fabric of reality, began to contract. "It's working," Dr. Marsh exclaimed, her voice filled with a mixture of relief and scientific fascination. However, the success came with unexpected consequences. As the rift collapsed, a brilliant aurora erupted in the sky, its colors shifting and pulsing with otherworldly beauty. At the same time, every electronic device within a 50-mile radius went dark. "Electromagnetic pulse," Dr. Marsh muttered, quickly assessing the situation. "We'll need to refine the energy output to minimize collateral damage." As Uma and Dr. Marsh worked to implement these crucial refinements, production began on additional units. The race was on to distribute these devices to key locations around the globe before the Void Hunter reinforcements arrived. In the Amazon rainforest, Roger Campbell's strike team encountered something entirely new. Emerging from a pulsing rift was a biomechanical entity unlike any they had seen before. Larger and more complex, it moved with an unsettling grace that suggested a higher level of intelligence. "Hold your fire," Roger ordered, raising a hand to stay his team's trigger fingers. The entity turned towards them, its multiple sensor arrays focusing on the humans with an intensity that sent chills down their spines. To everyone's shock, the entity emitted a series of complex tones and clicks. Roger's eyes widened as he realized the implications. "It's trying to communicate," he breathed. In that moment, he made a decision that would change the course of the conflict. "We're taking it in alive. This could be our key to understanding the Void Hunter's true intentions." As the captured entity was secured for transport, alarms blared across every command center on Earth. Long-range sensors had detected a massive energy surge at the edge of the solar system, the signature of multiple Void Hunter vessels, using advanced propulsion technology to rapidly close in on Earth. In the command center, Lieutenant Harris's face hardened as he absorbed the implications of this new threat. He turned to his communications officer, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "Send word to all stations," he ordered. "We're accelerating the deployment of the rift-closing devices. It's time to take the fight to them." As Earth braced for the impending confrontation, Uma and her team worked feverishly to overcome the technical challenges of mass-producing the rift-closing devices. Power fluctuations and system incompatibilities threatened to derail their efforts at every turn. Captain Krell, recognizing the critical nature of their work, arrived at the production facility to lend his expertise. His knowledge of alien technology proved invaluable in solving several key issues that had stymied the human engineers. "Your power distribution matrix is inefficient," Krell growled, his clawed hands manipulating a holographic schematic. Reroute it through these nodes, and you'll double the output while reducing the electromagnetic bleed. As the final adjustments were made and the devices were prepared for global distribution, Roger Campbell stood before the containment chamber holding the captured sentient entity. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what promised to be the most important interrogation of his life. The fate of Earth hung in the balance as humanity prepared to face its greatest challenge. The approaching Void Hunter fleet loomed like a shadow over the planet, while the proliferating rifts continued to threaten global stability. In this moment of crisis, the actions of a few key individuals would determine whether Earth would stand or fall before the interdimensional threat. Roger Campbell took a deep breath, his hand hesitating for a moment before inputting the access code to the containment chamber. The airlock hissed open, revealing a sterile, white room dominated by a shimmering energy field. Within it, the captured biomechanical entity pulsed and shifted, its intricate array of sensors focused intently on the humans entering the space. "Remember," Roger said, turning to the team of xenobiologists and linguists accompanying him, "we're not here to threaten or intimidate. This could be our best chance at understanding what we're really up against." As they approached the energy field, the entity emitted a series of complex tones and clicks, its form undulating in what appeared to be a display of distress. Roger held up a hand, signaling the others to stay back, and took a step forward. "I'm going to try to communicate," he said, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. Drawing on his experiences beyond the rift, Roger began a series of gestures and vocalizations, his movements deliberately slow and non-threatening. The entity's response was immediate. It mimicked Roger's gestures, adding its own variations. The linguists worked furiously on their tablets, their translation algorithms struggling to keep up with the rapid exchange. "It's working," one of the xenobiologists whispered, her eyes wide with excitement. As the rudimentary communication continued, Roger's expression shifted from concentration to surprise. "It's calling itself Nexus," he reported. "And it's not just a probe, it's a scout for the Void Hunter fleet." Meanwhile, in a bustling command center halfway across the globe, Uma's holographic form flickered beside Dr. Marsh as they put the finishing touches on the rift-closing devices. "Power output is stable," Uma reported, her voice tinged with satisfaction. "We're ready for deployment." "DR," Marsh nodded, her fingers flying over a holographic interface. "Initiating global distribution protocols now. Prioritizing major population centers and areas with the largest rifts." As the first wave of devices was deployed, the results were mixed. In Tokyo, a massive rift that had been threatening to engulf the city's financial district collapsed with a thunderous boom, leaving behind only a faint shimmer in the air. But in Sao Paulo, the device sputtered and sparked, barely making a dent in the swirling vortex of otherworldly energy. "We need to recalibrate," Dr. Marsh muttered, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Uma, can you analyze the data from the failed attempts?" Before Uma could respond, an urgent transmission cut through the air. Lieutenant Harris's voice crackled over the comm system, tight with tension. "We've got a problem," he announced. "The Void Hunter fleet has split up. Half of them are still on course for Earth, but the rest are headed for the moon. They're going after our lunar bases." In the orbital command center, Harris's fingers danced over holographic displays, repositioning Earth's defensive assets. "Captain Krell," he called out, "I need you to lead a task force to intercept the group heading for the moon. We can't let them take those research facilities." Krell's gravelly voice responded immediately. "Understood, Lieutenant. Assembling strike force now." As Krell's fleet of Earth and Xeraxian ships moved to engage the Void Hunters, the space between Earth and its satellite erupted into a dazzling display of energy weapon fire. From the planet's surface, it looked like a new constellation had suddenly burst into existence, flaring and dimming in a deadly dance. Back in the containment chamber, Roger's interrogation of Nexus had taken an unexpected turn. The entity's distress had given way to a sense of urgency, its gestures becoming more emphatic. "There, refugees?" Roger said, his voice filled with disbelief. He turned to the team, his eyes wide. "Their home dimension is collapsing. They're not here to conquer. They're trying to survive." As this revelation spread through Earth's command structure, it forced a rapid reevaluation of their defensive strategy. Uma, upon receiving the news, immediately saw an opportunity. "We can use the rift-closing devices in reverse," she proposed, her holographic form pulsing with excitement. "Create stable portals instead of closing them. It could be a way to peacefully willpower this conflict." As Uma and her team began the delicate process of modifying the devices, the battle over the moon intensified. Captain Krell's forces had managed to destroy several Void Hunter ships, but the alien superior technology was beginning to turn the tide. "All ships concentrate fire on their lead vessel," Krell growled, his own ship narrowly avoiding a barrage of energy blasts. "We need to break their formation." On the lunar surface, the base's defensive systems roared to life. Experimental weapons, developed from studying the captured Void Hunter mothership, lanced out into space, catching several alien vessels off guard. Meanwhile, on Earth, Roger Campbell led a strike team to the Sahara Desert, where the largest concentration of biomechanical entities had gathered around a massive rift. As they approached, the shimmering tear in reality pulsed ominously, casting an eerie glow across the endless dunes. "Deploy the modified device," Roger ordered, his voice steady despite the tension thrumming through his body. "Let's see if we can stabilize this thing." As the device activated, the rift began to fluctuate wildly. Energy discharges whipped up the sand into a blinding storm, forcing Roger's team to take cover behind their vehicles. For several heart-stopping moments, it seemed as if the device might fail catastrophically. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the storm subsided. Roger lowered his arm, squinting through the settling dust. Where the chaotic rift had been, a stable, shimmering portal now hung, suspended above the desert floor. "It worked," he breathed, a mixture of relief and awe in his voice. But before he could report their success, a new form began to emerge from the portal. Not the familiar biomechanical entities, but a being of pure, radiant energy. Roger's hand instinctively went to his weapon, but something stopped him from drawing it. The floating entity before them radiated an aura of peace, its very presence seeming to calm the turbulent air around it. As the energy being drifted closer, Roger realized that Earth's defenders now faced not just one alien species, but two. The already complex situation had just become exponentially more complicated. "This is Lieutenant Harris." His comm unit crackled to life. "All units be advised. We're detecting multiple new energy signatures entering the system. Whatever you've done in the Sahara, it's drawn attention. Prepare for potential first contact scenarios at all stabilized rift sites." Roger looked up at the shimmering being before him, then back at his team. The fate of Earth, and perhaps multiple dimensions, now hinged on what happened next. "Well," he said, his voice calm despite the gravity of the situation, "let's make a good first impression, shall we?" As Roger faced a luminous being emerging from the stabilized portal, his comm unit crackled again. This time, it was John's urgent voice cutting through the static. "Roger, we need you back at HQ immediately. There's been a development that requires your expertise." Roger hesitated, torn between the unprecedented first contact unfolding before him and the urgency in John's tone. He made a split-second decision, delegating the delicate task to his second-in-command. "Dr. Simmons, you're in charge here. Maintain peaceful contact and report any developments," Roger ordered, already moving towards their transport vehicle. Within hours, Roger found himself in a high-security briefing room, joining John, Zalara, and a group of Earth's top military and scientific leaders. The atmosphere was tense, the faces around the table grim. Admiral Chun, head of Earth's Defense Forces, spoke first. While we've been dealing with the Void Hunters and these new energy beings, our long-range intelligence has uncovered something disturbing. The holographic display at the center of the table flickered to life, showing a series of star systems. Red markers appeared on several planets, pulsing ominously. John stepped forward, his face set in a hard line. We've discovered a network of farms across these systems. But these aren't ordinary farms. They're raising sentient alien species as livestock. A collective gasp went through the room. Zalara, standing quietly beside John, visibly tense at the words. Admiral Chin continued, "Given the potential diplomatic ramifications and the ethical implications, we've decided to take action. We're assembling a specialized task force to investigate and dismantle these operations." Roger's mind raced, connecting the dots. "And you want us to lead this task force?" John nodded, his eyes meeting Roger's. "You, me, Zalara, and a select team of our best. We leave in 6 hours." The next few hours were a whirlwind of preparation. Roger and John handpicked their team, a mix of elite soldiers and xenobiologists. They were outfitted with the latest in stealth technology and non-lethal weaponry, designed to minimize conflict with potentially hostile civilizations. As they boarded their cutting-edge stealth vessel, christened the Shadow Whisper, Roger couldn't help but feel a mix of anticipation and dread. The ship hummed to life, its advanced systems barely making a sound as they lifted off from Earth's surface. Their first target was a remote planet in a nearby star system. As they approached, the ship's sensors detected an unexpected obstacle, a network of automated defense satellites encircling the planet. "This is more advanced than we anticipated," John muttered, studying the holographic display of the defensive grid. Roger leaned in, his eyes narrowing as he analyzed the pattern of the satellites. "There," he pointed, "that cluster of space debris. If we can mimic its energy signature, we might be able to slip through undetected." John nodded, a grim smile on his face. "Good eye. Helmsman, adjust our approach vector. Match the debris field's trajectory and energy output." The Shadow Whisper glided silently through space, its advanced systems perfectly replicating the chaotic tumble of space debris. For several tense minutes, they held their breath as they passed through the defensive grid. Finally, they broke through, entering the planet's atmosphere undetected. As they descended, the lush jungle canopy below parted to reveal a vast compound, its metallic structures a stark contrast to the natural landscape. The team donned their stealth suits, the advanced technology rendering them nearly invisible. They infiltrated the facility with practiced ease, their movements silent and coordinated. What they found inside made even the hardened soldiers pause in shock. Vast halls were filled with containment units, each housing a different alien species. The conditions were horrific, the air thick with the sounds and smells of suffering. Zalara, who had been quiet since their arrival, suddenly spoke up. "The feeding schedule is about to start. We need to move quickly if we want to avoid detection." Roger looked at her, surprised by her sudden assertiveness. "Lead the way," he said, recognizing the value of her insider knowledge. As they moved deeper into the compound, documenting evidence and assessing the scale of the operation, the full magnitude of their task became clear. There were thousands of captives, many from species unknown to Earth xenobiologists. John's voice came through their comm units, tight with tension. "We can't rescue them all, not with our current resources. We need to prioritize." Roger nodded grimly. "Agreed. We focus on gathering evidence and rescuing a representative sample of each species. It's not ideal, but it's the best we can do for now." As they began to implement their plan, disabling security systems and preparing for evacuation, an alarm suddenly blared through the compound. They had triggered a silent alert system they hadn't detected. "We're blown," John growled. "New plan." We accelerate the evac. Create as much chaos as possible to cover our tracks. The team sprang into action. Zalara took charge of communicating with the captive aliens, her unique perspective allowing her to calm their fears and organize them for evacuation. Roger and John led the soldiers in a series of guerrilla-style attacks, disrupting the compound's defenses and creating diversions. As they fought their way to the landing zone, Roger caught glimpses of their opponents, a previously unknown alien species with advanced cybernetic enhancements. Their movements were unnaturally fast, their attacks coordinated with machine-like precision. The Shadow Whisperer's ramp lowered, and they began shuttling groups of liberated aliens aboard. The ship's hold quickly filled beyond capacity, forcing Roger to make a difficult decision. "That's it," he called out, his voice barely audible over the sound of weapons fire. "We can't take any more. John, start the engines. We're leaving." As the last of their team boarded, the compound's operators launched a full-scale assault on the landing zone. Roger and John provided covering fire, their advanced weapons holding off the attackers without causing fatalities. The ship lifted off under heavy fire, its shields straining against the onslaught. As they broke atmosphere, Roger slumped into his seat, exhaustion washing over him. He looked around at his team, at the rescued aliens huddled in the hold, and at Zalara, her eyes shining with a mix of triumph and commitment. "We did it," John said, his voice low. "But this is just the beginning, isn't it?" Roger nodded, his mind already racing with the implications of what they'd discovered. As the Shadow Whisperer entered hyperdrive, carrying its precious cargo of rescued aliens and vital intelligence, he knew that their actions today would have far-reaching consequences. The galaxy was about to change, and they were at the center of it all. The Shadow Whisperer emerged from hyperdrive, its hull still bearing scorch marks from the intense firefight during their escape. Roger gazed out at the vast expanse of space, his mind racing with the implications of their recent mission. As they approached a dense asteroid field, John's voice crackled over the intercom. "Initiating cloaking sequence," he announced. "Prepare for docking procedures." The ship weaved through the asteroids with precision, revealing a hidden space station nestled within the rocky debris. As they drew closer, Roger marveled at the ingenuity of its camouflage. The station's exterior mimicked the surrounding asteroids, making it virtually indistinguishable from the rest of the field. The Shadow Whisperer glided into a concealed docking bay, the airlock sealing behind them with a soft hiss. As the ramp lowered, a flurry of activity erupted around them. Medical teams rushed forward, their faces a mix of dedication and concern as they triaged the diverse array of alien species emerging from the ship's hold. Roger watched as a team of xenobiologists carefully maneuvered a containment unit housing a gelatinous being, its translucent form pulsating with bioluminescent patterns. Nearby, an avian creature with iridescent feathers was gently coaxed onto a hovering stretcher, its wings bound to prevent further injury. "This way," a stern voice cut through the commotion. Roger turned to see a woman in an admiral's uniform striding towards them. Her silver hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her eyes held a sharp, calculating gaze. "Admiral Helena Reeves," she introduced herself, extending a hand to Roger. "I'm the commanding officer of the Earth Alliance's Interstellar Rescue and Rehabilitation Division. Follow me to the briefing room. We have much to discuss." As they made their way through the station's corridors, Roger couldn't help but notice the mix of human and alien technology integrated seamlessly into the structure. Holographic displays flickered with real-time data, while gravity generators hummed softly underfoot. In the briefing room, Admiral Reeves wasted no time. "The intelligence you've gathered is invaluable," she said, activating a holographic star map. Red markers pulsed across multiple systems. "We've identified at least a dozen more farms. Your next mission is to lead a series of coordinated raids on these facilities." John leaned forward, studying the map intently. "We'll need more resources, a larger team. "You'll have them," Reeves assured him. "We're assembling a specialized strike force as we speak." As they delved into the details of the upcoming operation, Zalara's voice chimed in. "Admiral, if I may," she said, stepping forward. "My experience with the various species we encountered could be crucial for future missions." Reeves nodded, her expression softening slightly. "Agreed. Consider yourself officially inducted into the IRRD as our cultural liaison and tactical advisor." Over the next few hours, the station buzzed with activity. Zalara immersed herself in the medical bay, working alongside Earth xenobiologists to create detailed care protocols for each rescued species. Her unique perspective proved invaluable as she helped bridge the communication gap between the humans and their alien charges. Meanwhile, John threw himself into mission planning, poring over tactical displays and personnel files as he assembled his strike teams. The stakes were higher now, and he knew they couldn't afford any mistakes. As Roger made his way to the station's observation deck for a moment of quiet reflection, he was intercepted by a young lieutenant. "Sir, we have a situation," the officer said, his voice urgent. "One of the rescued aliens is demanding to speak with you. Says she has critical information." Roger followed the lieutenant to a secure holding area, where he found himself face to face with a reptilian female. Her scales shimmered with an iridescent sheen, and her vertical pupils fixed him with an intense gaze. "I am Zira," she hissed, her forked tongue flicking out as she spoke. "You must listen carefully. The farms are not isolated incidents. They are part of a vast network controlled by Galactic Corp." Roger's eyes widened as Zira detailed the extent of Galactic Corp's operations, a secretive interstellar corporation, supplying exotic meats to wealthy clients across multiple civilizations. The implications were staggering. Within minutes, John, Zalara, and Admiral Reeves had joined them. As Zira repeated her tale, the gravity of the situation settled over the room like a heavy shroud. "This changes everything," Reeves muttered, her brow furrowed in concentration. "We're no longer just dealing with isolated farms. We're up against a corporate empire with tendrils reaching into galactic governments." John's face hardened. "We'll need to expand our operation. Not just rescue missions, but a full-scale effort to dismantle their entire organization." Reeves nodded grimly. "Agreed. I'm authorizing the deployment of additional resources. You will have a fleet of stealth ships at your disposal, along with the latest in surveillance and hacking technology." As the group dispersed to begin preparations for their expanded mission, Roger found himself standing next to Zalara. The alien woman's eyes gleamed with a fierce dedication. "We're going to need every advantage we can get," Roger said, his voice low. "Your insights will be crucial." Zalara nodded, her posture straightening. "I'll work with the station's engineers to develop new non-lethal weapons and containment systems. We need to be prepared for those cybernetically enhanced operators we encountered." As they walked together towards the engineering bay, the station's intercoms crackled to life. Admiral Reeves' voice echoed through the corridors, announcing the formation of specialized strike teams and the initiation of diplomatic efforts to notify friendly alien governments about the farms. The next few days passed in a blur of activity. John drilled his newly formed strike teams relentlessly, pushing them to their limits. Zalara emerged from the engineering bay with prototypes of advanced non-lethal weapons and a revolutionary universal translation device. As the final preparations for the coordinated raids fell into place, Roger found himself on the bridge of the Shadow Whisper once more. Around him, a fleet of sleek stealth ships hummed to life, their crews ready for the challenges ahead. John's voice came through the comm system, steady and resolute. "All ships, prepare for departure. We strike at the heart of Galactic Corp's operations." As the fleet engaged their stealth systems and began to move out of the asteroid field, Roger felt a mix of anticipation and trepidation. The mission ahead would test them in ways they couldn't imagine, but the fate of countless enslaved aliens, and perhaps the very fabric of galactic society, hung in the balance. The stars stretched into lines as the ships entered hyperdrive, carrying Earth's defenders towards a confrontation that would reshape the known galaxy. Universe. As they emerged from hyperspace, the fleet of stealth ships spread out across multiple star systems, each vessel targeting a specific Galactic Corp facility. Roger's voice crackled over the comm system. All teams, activate stealth systems and prepare for synchronized assault. John and Zalara led the Shadow Whisper towards their primary target, Galactic Corp's main processing center. As they approached, the massive space station came into view, cleverly hidden within the swirling gases of an unstable nebula. Impressive camouflage, Zalara murmured, her eyes tracking the faint energy signatures that betrayed the station's presence. John nodded grimly. Let's hope our intel is as good as their hiding skills. The strike team moved swiftly, their advanced stealth technology allowing them to slip past the outer defenses undetected. As they neared the station's hull, John activated a sophisticated hacking device developed by Earth's top cyber warfare experts. Initiating breach, he announced, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. The station's security protocols crumbled under the assault, and within moments, the Shadow Whisper had docked with the processing center. As the airlock cycled, John turned to his team. Remember, non-lethal takedowns only. We're here to shut this operation down, not add to the body count. The strike team moved with practiced precision, securing the command center in a matter of minutes. John watched with satisfaction as his operatives disabled communications and defense systems, effectively cutting off the station from the rest of Galactic Corp's network. Meanwhile, Zalara led a separate team deeper into the bowels of the station. The holding pen stretched out before them, a horrifying menagerie of captive aliens. Some creatures huddled in corners, while others paced restlessly in their confinement. Activating her universal translator, Zalara addressed the assembled beings. "We're here to free you," she said, her voice carrying a mix of urgency and compassion. "Please remain calm and follow our instructions." As her team worked to deactivate force fields and unlock cages, Zalara noticed a group of aliens unlike any she had encountered before. Their bodies seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly energy, and their large, expressive eyes conveyed a depth of intelligence that took her breath away. One of the beings approached Zalara, its thoughts brushing against her mind with startling clarity. "We are the empaths," it communicated. "We have been waiting for you." Zalara quickly realized the value of these remarkable creatures. "Can you help us?" she asked, gesturing to the chaos of the evacuation around them. The empath nodded, its form pulsing with a soothing light. Within moments, the panicked aliens began to calm, organizing themselves into orderly groups for transport. As Zalara coordinated the evacuation, John's team pushed deeper into the station. They encountered increasing resistance from Galactic Corp's cybernetically enhanced security forces, but the non-lethal weapons developed by Zalara and the station's engineers proved devastatingly effective. Stun fields crackled through the air, temporarily overloading the neural implants of their opponents. Gravity manipulators pinned security personnel to the walls and floors, rendering them harmless without causing lasting damage. John led the charge, his movements fluid and purposeful as he navigated the labyrinthine corridors. As they neared the heart of the station, he noticed a change in the architecture, the utilitarian design giving way to something more clinical and sterile. "We're close to something big," he muttered, signaling his team to move with extra caution. They breached a final set of blast doors, and John's eyes widened at the sight before him. Row upon row of massive cloning tanks stretched into the distance, each containing the developing form of an alien species. "This is how they've been doing it," John breathed, his mind racing with the implications. "They're not just capturing aliens, they're manufacturing them." A nearby console caught his attention, and John quickly accessed its database. The information that scrolled across the screen confirmed his worst fears. Galactic Corp had been engineering designer species to meet the specific taste of their wealthy clientele. John knew that shutting down this facility was crucial to ending Galactic Corp's unethical practices. He activated his comm link. "I need a xenobiology team here immediately," he ordered. "We've got a massive cloning operation to dismantle." As the specialists arrived, John worked alongside them to initiate a controlled shutdown of the cloning tanks. It was delicate work. They needed to ensure the safety of the developing beings inside while rendering the facility inoperable. While John and his team tackled the cloning center, Earth's Cyber Warfare Division launched their coordinated attack on Galactic Corp's financial networks. Across the galaxy, the corporation's carefully constructed facade began to crumble. Hidden accounts were exposed, incriminating evidence flooded secure government channels, and Galactic Corp's stock price plummeted in real time on every major exchange. The once mighty corporation, which had built its empire on the suffering of countless beings, was brought to its knees in a matter of hours. As the raid on the main processing center concluded, reports began flooding in from the other strike teams. Facility after facility had fallen, with thousands of aliens rescued and key Galactic Corp personnel apprehended. John allowed himself a moment of satisfaction as he surveyed the secured command center. The scale of their operation was unprecedented, and he knew the repercussions would be felt across the galaxy for years to come. His calm link chimed, and Zalara's voice came through, tinged with excitement. "John, you need to see this. We've made contact with a species that could change everything." As John made his way to the holding area, he couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. They had struck a decisive blow against Galactic Corp, but he knew their work was a long way to go. The galaxy was about to enter a new era, and Earth would be at the forefront of that change. The Shadow Whisper's engines hummed to life as they prepared to leave the now-defunct processing center. John looked out at the sea of rescued aliens being carefully transferred to their fleet of ships. Among them, he spotted the shimmering forms of the empaths, their presence already having a calming effect on the traumatized beings around them. As they set course for the sanctuary worlds, John knew that the next phase of their mission would be just as challenging as the raid itself. But with Zalara by his side and the resources of the Earth Alliance behind them, he felt ready to face whatever lay ahead.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.